weekend, South Carolina and Clemson. But first, we got to recap what happened last weekend. I have a promise to make to you. I have a promise.
Okay.
I will no longer praise this baseball team. They made me look like a fool. A fool, Tyler.
Friday didn't go well. As somebody that was hyping up the fact that Army wasn't hitting the ball very well from their weekend series against Clemson, they proved that wrong pretty quickly. Yeah, Friday was, I don't know if disaster is the right word, but it wasn't great.
Sat here on Friday in the hour and 40 minutes that we did a show in front of my son, Austin, and I said, this baseball team might have some potential. We went through the lineup a little bit. Scobie, Craddock, LaCroix. Who else? A lot of
Sutter. Yeah, a lot of guys that you've seen some promising things from through at that point in time, the first 5 games that we were excited to see over the course of another weekend. And again, it ended up being all right, but yeah, for the couple hours on Friday, it gets to the point. And I know they tacked on runs late to make the game look better than it was, but when you're down 8-1, you're like, is Army going to run rule them? Like, you were legitimately concerned about getting run ruled in your own park by a team that had not won a game yet.
We'll talk about this, talk a lot with Jamie Bradford, because there's a lot to kind of take in from the weekend. They do bounce back. They play a lot better against Navy on Saturday, and then hold on yesterday, 4-2 victory over Air Force. But still, yeah, I'm not praising them anymore. I'm not going to look like a fool anymore. I try and tell y'all, I try to be poly positive over here and tell you that, yeah, kind of like where this team's going, like what their potential could be. And boy, do they make me on Friday in particular look like an absolute idiot.
As it is often the case, but I think especially this year, what happens against Clemson this weekend sets everybody's expectations going forward. If you go out there and you win all 3 games, we're going to feel pretty good about it. If you get swept, then I think most people are going to be pretty down on this team and not expect much in conference play.
I don't think that's true. I think that I think that so many people, and I'm basing this, and if y'all want to call in or you want to weigh in on this, 803-404-6100, I think so many people are anti-pulmonary, anti-baseball because of some of the loss, the Northern Kentucky loss, and then you have the Army loss, that I don't think sweeping Clemson would help those people.
I think so.
I think there's a certain portion of the fan base that right now, and understandably so, it's been a bad winter. It's been a cold winter. That just takes out the sports of it. But then the last 14 months, and we'll talk about this because, yeah, I don't know what one of y'all did. The chicken curse or whatever, I don't know what one of y'all did. One of y'all did something out there. And, somewhere, I don't know what you sold to the devil. The last 14 months, because we'll talk about this later today. Jacarius Peak, your starting left tackle, can't get through 2 months on campus without a knee injury that now we'll debate this. Shane Beamer, love him for this, but also makes it sometimes hard to do your job. Shane Beamer saying that, he'll be back. He'll be back this year.
That can mean a lot of things.
It's very true. A lot of other people are saying, yeah, well, we'll see if he gets back on the field. Now, I don't know. I have no idea. I just know that coaching injury reports, Tyler, are becoming more and more murky with each and every passing week.
Yeah, well, he's got a lower body injury. That can mean
got a leg.
1,000 things, right? And the severity we don't know. Now Beamer is going to talk tomorrow to introduce Matthew Smiley, so he'll get a chance to be asked some questions. I'm not expecting him to give us that much more detail on the extent of the injury because, I put out a statement that it is what it is. So, yeah, I think we're going to be speculating a lot this offseason because, again, Peak's not going to be able to practice in the spring, and we'll see what shape he's in 190-some days from now when they're getting set to start the year and go from there. But, yeah, for what's been a tough, like you said, 14-ish months for men's sports, 2025 not starting off great right now. Dave, that place in New Orleans you went where there was the voodoo doll that made your luck with women really bad, was there anything Gamecock sports related that maybe somebody stabbed with a pen or put a hex on while you were there?
I think there was a little rooster down in the lower left-hand corner with about a bunch of orange pins in it.
Now, this was before we started doing the show together. there is a voodoo doll at some place in New Orleans that we believe is the reason why Dave's had trouble with women over the years. So we've been trying to get Dave to go back to undo the curse. So perhaps we need to make a trip as well for Gamecock Sports to undo the curse that way, if there is indeed a pin doll that is a chicken.
We will. Yeah, I don't know. Again, one of y'all out there, I'm done blaming all the coaches and the players. I'm blaming y'all now. It's on one of y'all. We can start singling you out one by one between now and I guess the start of football season. But we'll talk about that. That's another thing. Gamecock football injury, and obviously, at least it happens now before spring practice, so you can go ahead and start kind of working guys through those 15 practices and trying to figure out what the plan of action is. And I will also say now, Josiah Thompson coming back is golden. Like, I know he wasn't good last year. He wasn't. Josiah Thompson was very bad. I'm not sure what exactly the reason was why he took such a step backwards. Was it him not putting in the effort? Was it coaching and he just didn't make improvement? Was it scheme? It could be a lot of things. And look, they're probably in there as a combination of all of them. But now you got him back. You got a bunch of guys in the portal that somebody else has got to play. And then we'll go from there and see if Jacarius Peak does indeed make it back.
And again, we don't get to go to spring practice. Or sounds like we're not going to have a spring game, so we're not going to get to see any of this.
Right.
It's going to all be based on reports, inside knowledge until the season gets here. So it's going to be a fun 6 months of speculation.
Yeah, exactly. That's the exact way to put it. So we'll get into that. Men's basketball, they get a victory on the weekend. Good for them. I think I saw Elijah had put out a tweet that came across my little Twitter page earlier. Something about 32 days, I think, in between victories for the Gamecocks.
Yeah, the Oklahoma game was the last one. That was over a month ago. And, yeah, you've had some rough outings since then. As we talked about, you've played closer games against some good teams like Florida and Alabama. What's that worth? Not a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. What's this win mean in terms of decisions that have to be made soon? Probably not a whole lot, but for the players, for the fans in attendance, the few that were there on Saturday, feel good knowing they won.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, they win, and you get Kentucky tomorrow night, and that unfortunately means the arrival of Big Blue Nation at Colonial Life Arena.
Right. You've done well against them.
They have
CLA as of late.
They have, and Kentucky comes in struggling. And the Kentucky fans, it's funny, if you read that Message Board Genius Twitter page.
One of my favorites.
Right now, if you read what Auburn is saying about their football program, it would sound a lot like South Carolina fans. If you read what Kentucky is saying about their basketball program, it would sound a lot like South Carolina fans.
Yeah.
So we've all got our issues, but Kentucky shows up right now on the bubble, and they come off of a loss down on the Plains over the weekend. Auburn got a tip in at the buzzer to beat Kentucky, and the Wildcats are kind of staggering right now. They'll come in 17-10 on the season, but the arena is going to be filled with Big Blue Nation. I believe it was David Cloninger over the weekend put out a tweet that had a video of the arena. I believe that was who I saw put it out, and it was a notable difference on Saturday afternoon to Sunday afternoon. Let's just say that.
Yeah, they did the thing where they tell everyone they can move down to the lower portions to make it look a whole lot better. But it didn't help the fact that you had baseball going on, just down the street and all that anyway. But yeah, look, this is a fan base that's been mostly checked out on this basketball program for the better part of over a month now. And again, you've technically speaking, you've won more games in conference play this year than last year.
Yep,
one more game. You still have a couple more to go, so you could double your win total from a year ago in conference play. What does that mean? I don't know.
We'll talk about that really more in about the next 15 days as we wrap up the regular season and get to the SEC tournament. So a lot to get into, including, again, yesterday. It really, say what you want. I've seen all the tweets, and we're not going to make this political or anything, but say what you want. It was great sport. It's why we love sports. You were into it. I want to be clear on this. Yesterday was not about the Miracle on Ice. Aside from it falling on the same day, which also was George Washington's birthday, by the way, so let's just correlate those two if we're going to do it.
Hell yeah.
But it wasn't. It was entirely different. Like yesterday, because we were minus 117 on the money line, they were minus 123. Like it was basically a pick 'em.
Yeah.
The way Vegas viewed it, and Vegas normally has a good feel for these things, and it lived up to be that.
And I think it's important to remember. And again, I was not alive for this, but I'm well versed enough on the Miracle on Ice of around the political connotations of the time with the Soviet Union. There was a lot of other world things happening around that game that contributed to why, and they were professionals, the Americans were amateurs. There were a lot of other things that built into that being what it was. There's a reason why they made a movie about that. There's a reason why it's one of the greatest, American sports moments of all time. And I don't know if this necessarily compares to that because it's such a different scenario, but it is one that we're going to remember for a very long time. And man, it was just fun to watch. You know what I mean? Like, again, I don't have a hockey team to root for, so I'm in and out of hockey throughout the year. But man, I just thoroughly enjoyed watching two really great teams play each other, fighting literal tooth and nail down to the very end in an overtime game.
Quite frankly, if America had won, if USA had won 2-0, we might not be talking about it as much.
Sure,
like
that still feel good, but like the way it played out, it's like, those are the moments as sports fans that you live for. It's agonizing, because you're hanging on every shot, like, oh. And there was a couple shots that Canada had that could have gone in and made things a whole lot different. But at the end of the day, America won. That's all that matters.
As I said, it was incredible sport. Just from a pure, you don't have to know about hockey. You didn't have to know any of the players on the team. You don't have to have a reason to dislike Canada. It was just a great match all the way around. Then you do have Nathan McKinnon. Is it McKinnon? I believe McKinnon that comes out afterwards is like, well, I'll let y'all judge who's the better team. Well, let me tell you something, Nathan McKinnon. In 1775, I don't know if we were the better team.
That's a good point.
But we won.
You know what? He's probably not wrong. Canada might be the better team, but I'm going to use my 1998 rock and say it doesn't matter who the better team was because America won. That's it.
I'm ballparking. I actually don't know off the top of my head exactly when our War of Independence came to an end. Do you know?
Like when it officially ended?
Yeah, I mean, is it? Was it 1770? I thought it was 1775, and then it took us about 6 months to
1781 or something.
They go into 81?
Wait, was it 81?
Yeah, it went for a while.
Like what? Like that's what I'm saying.
So they declared their independence in 1776, but the war continued on. Right, Dave?
Is that
am I right on that?
And I'm a history major, folks, so this is not good. What would you say?
Takes a while to beat an army in red coats.
Yeah, it does. Well,
did you think that it was red coats? Look at that.
The Declaration was in 1776.
Right, now that was in 17.
Continued on.
Okay, I'm going to have to do a little more digging on this now.
We are celebrating 250 years of declaring our independence.
That's a good point. All right, now we've got to the bottom of that. How about that? We've talked sports.
There's your history lesson for the day.
I'm going to dig a little bit more because I have just shamed the University of South Carolina and my history degree with
1783.
Really?
Yeah.
You were in college for 6 years, man.
It wasn't spent on campus, I can tell you that. 803-404-6100. All right, we'll get to a lot. Start to come back. This football injury takes a lot of precedent. Jacarius Peak, what happened? Why did it happen? What's the next steps? All these fun things. We'll talk about it. You're listening to The Halftime Show. All right, I'm not crazy. I feel a little bit better about myself. The Revolutionary War started in 1775. I knew 1775 was relevant, but I wasn't sure I thought it was the end of the war, and then we signed, and then we did our Constitution. But it was 1775 is when it started, April 19th, 1775.
You a fan of Hamilton, the musical?
I have not seen it.
You've not seen it?
I've not seen it. I think it came here, too, didn't it?
Yeah, I went when it came here. It was great. They have the Broadway one on Disney Plus, I think. But I recommend it. They hit on all that.
Okay.
So if you need a refresher, there you go.
I do need a refresher, clearly, but yeah. So, like I said, take that, Nathan McKinnon. Maybe in 1775, we weren't the best team on the battlefield, but we have our country. So, and now we have the gold medals. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little while. Again, just from a pure standpoint of just being involved in sport and great contests, great games, I might ask you here in a little while, where does that rank? Like in terms of best game, take your team out of it.
Yeah.
Take your team out of it and just best, if you're a South Carolina fan, if you're a Clemson fan, if you're a Georgia fan, whatever, take your team out. Where does it rank in terms of best all-time games you've watched?
And again, we're just over 24 hours removed from this thing ending, so the emotions of it are still obviously fresh. But I think as time goes on, this is going to be for a lot of people. And I think it's important to create different lists of like moments of fans of your individual teams and moments as a sports fan in general that you can just really appreciate. Like Tiger Woods winning the Masters in 2019, the Cubs breaking the World Series curse. That you may not be a fan of that person or those teams, but you realize how special it is, and you're kind of taking in that moment. And I think what happened yesterday with the men's hockey is one of those things, because, again, it's been 46 years. You weren't even alive the last time they won, gold medals, in the Olympics. And, you add in the drama of the game itself, how it played out, going to overtime. Just everything about it was almost perfect, right, where it's going to be a story and a game that, again, I don't know if it lives up to what the Miracle on Ice was. That's always going to be its own thing. But this one's going to be remembered for a long time to go.
803-404-6100. Josh weighs in and says, Bill, are we going to need to pull your college transcripts to see if you actually did graduate from South Carolina?
What do those college transcripts look like, Bill?
They're solid. They are a solid C work.
You know what the funny thing
right there around a 2.0.
The funny thing about college, right? Nobody cares about your GPA. As long as you get the degree, you could be straight A's, you could have C's. The degree is the same across the board. Now, yeah, you can add, summa cum laude or whatever if you're at the top of your class, which does look impressive. But in all the job interviews I've been on, nobody's ever asked me for my GPA. So as long as you get the degree.
I got off to a slow start. That's what I blame it on. It was a slow start. Rallied hard at the finish. I was playing a lot of makeup there over
Whose
the last.
fault was that slow start?
Big parties, rush at the
I'd blame,
fraternity.
in particular, Sharkies. Jungle Gyms and Sharkies in particular. It wasn't my fault.
Did they give you an honorary degree?
Sharkies, in all seriousness, I played a large role in them becoming the #1 Jim Beam distributor, I believe, in the Southeast. They had a sign up for it. They didn't have a sign up for me, but they had a sign up for it for a while.
But in spirit, you knew it was yours.
I knew I was a large part of it. $2 Jim Beam and Sprites. I knew I was a huge part of that. I felt good about it. Year 4, I didn't feel so good about it. 803-404-6100. Jacarius Peak is injured for South Carolina. We don't truly know the extent. Maybe tomorrow. Now, as Tyler pointed out, yesterday, South Carolina did put out a statement, and that was the right thing to do, by the way. Good Lord, don't let this thing kind of fester and us sit here and play our own games. So kudos to them. Now, whether we want to believe it or not, that's an entirely separate conversation. But South Carolina did put out a statement yesterday saying that Jacarius Peak will be available this season. We'll see what happens on that.
Now, that can mean anything.
Okay, hold on. Let me read it, and then I'm interested to come back. Jacarius Peak suffered a lower, this is according to Shane Beamer, said in the statement to the Post and Courier, Jacarius Peak suffered a lower body injury earlier this week, and he will miss spring practice. We expect that he will be available this season.
This is one of those things that when you go back to like when you're in high school and they make you dissect poetry, where you're like dissecting every single word. Well, that can mean this, that can mean that. Expect, okay, so there's a chance that maybe he doesn't come back this season. Is that game 1? Is that game 6? Is that game 10? All this right now is open to interpretation because we don't know the severity of the injury. Again, it's lower body, maybe a knee, whatever it may be, that until we get more concrete evidence of what this is or more information on it, I think we're just kind of made to speculate and wonder how bad this is going to be. And obviously, you're at a point now where there's not any actual team activities going on from an actual football standpoint where you can keep things under wraps a little bit more. But obviously, it's all going to come out in the wash in time. And if you get the season and he's not playing, then, that injury was more severe than we thought. If you get to camp and he's 100% and good to go, okay, well, it wasn't that big of a deal. But until we see something like that, we're going to speculate.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I think we're going to be speculating leading up to Kent State and trying to figure out exactly the severity of this injury. Maybe, again, Coach – actually, it's not up to Coach Beamer anymore. He's given his statement.
Yes.
He's given his statement. It's what you want to believe. Now, the question really becomes who is really in line for that left tackle spot. I'm going to assume that now Shane Beamer and Randy Clements have a sit-down with Josiah Thompson and go, young man, God's smiling on you because you're having an opportunity now to prove that you're worthy of that position. You have to go out and earn it. You've got to make sure you're in the weight room. You've got to put in the extracurricular work. But right now, you're first. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're going to somebody else and saying that. I don't know. But I'm assuming the good news is they've got about 2 weeks, I believe. Maybe next week. They got next week to formulate a plan.
Yeah. Well, and again, I don't believe Jacarius Peak has dealt with a lot of injuries over his college career, so he's not an injury-riddled guy. But especially when you're talking about lower body injuries to an offensive lineman, these things can continue to creep up. So he could be back to start the season and then get hurt again. So you need to figure out your plan B at the very least at what left tackle is if this situation ends up being worse or he re-aggravates the injury or whatever it may be. Is that Josiah Thompson? Is that somebody else? I don't know. When you look at all the guys they brought in the portal, most of them are pretty versatile. Most of those guys have played multiple spots in the offensive line, so maybe everybody's starting from zero at spring practice and, every spot is up for grabs. Who knows? But figuring out your option behind Peak, because when he comes back, when he's healthy and ready to go, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind he is your starting left tackle. When that is, what percentage he's going to be about when that rolls around, that's what's up in the air. So, yes, you need to figure out all the bases and all the backup plans until then.
We'll see. Again, Josiah Thompson has got to live up to what he was, but obviously – to me, and I could be wrong about this, again, maybe tomorrow Shane Beamer goes into a little detail on right tackle, left tackle, he's not going to give a depth chart per se, but
don't speculate on one.
But
Careful.
Yeah, but you wonder in their mind what Randy Clement and Shane already kind of maybe they're probably not going to say it publicly, but what they had and how this changes things.
And I'm sure they have an idea. But again, when you bring in so many, because let's face it, without Josiah Thompson coming back, and Ched Surratt, this is basically an entirely new offensive line room. Most all these other guys were playing somewhere else last year. So spring practice is going to be a lot of learning of what you got, because you can look at tape and you look at numbers and all those kind of things, but until you really get out there coaching these guys on the field, you don't necessarily have a full idea of what you have. So their idea of what a starting five could look like today may be vastly different a month from now.
Exactly. Well, the offensive line, I think you have competition. To me, and I could be right, it depends on what Randy Clements wants and how he feels about it. You have competition up until 2 weeks until game time.
Yep.
I think that Saturday, that usual typical scrimmage they have on that Saturday, that's when you come out of there and you go, okay, these are our 5 starters. You 5 are practicing together for the next 14 days, getting ready for Kent State. Now, that's the good news. You get Kent State, too.
Yes.
So you can actually allow, instead of Miami,
first 2 weeks.
Well, I was going to say, but at Kent State, because if that was Miami, we might be looking at that entirely different right now.
Yeah, maybe so. But, again, we'll see what the recovery is like. And if you do need to give him a couple more weeks to get back to 100% before you play Mississippi State in week number 3, you have that option. Because, again, you feel like you should be able to beat Kent State and Towson with whatever your offensive line combination is, and the games that really matter the most when you get into SEC play, you want to make sure Peak is good and ready to go there. So we'll see. But, yes, we now get to spend the next 6 months speculating on how severe his injury is and when he comes back.
803-404-6100. We'll get back into baseball. How do we feel about that series? Also, who stood out from the weekend? We'll talk about it. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. All right, let me think here. It was nice and 80 last Thursday. You probably had your air conditioner on. Today, it's below 45. You're probably going to have to cut your heat on. It is that time of the year. You're going back and forth, heat, cold, air conditioner, so forth and on. It is a lot to deal with for you, let alone your actual HVAC unit. That's why it could give out on you at any moment. So you know what? To help you, AAA Heating and Air is always offering these incredible deals, such as guaranteed financing. That's right. No, money can be a little bit tight, but AAA Heating and Air is there to help you with guaranteed financing. How about a 15-year parts and labor guarantee to make sure that after they install that brand new heating and air unit, it continues to stay working for up to 15 years. And get this, helping you save money, no payments or interest for 12 months. Give them a phone call, 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. $12:34 on your Monday, a chilly Monday. So stay warm out there. By the end of the week, we'll be back into nice warm weather so that we can all get a little sick here trying to deal with the weather each and every day. 803-404-6100. By the way, weather, at least as of earlier, looking good for South Carolina Clemson this weekend. We'll see how it kind of continues to formulate as we head toward Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, and by the way, on Saturday, because the game's going to be out at Segra Park, we're going to have our own local pregame. Me and Elijah are going to be out there from 1 until 2:30, right out in front of Segra Park, so you can come by and see us, hang out, talk some Gamecock baseball, and we'll be getting you set for what hopefully will be a series clinching win for South Carolina if they can pick up win number 1 on Friday night over there at Founders Park. But yeah, again, I think the tone for the rest of the season, as it often is, set by what happens this weekend, where if you lose, fan base is distraught again. If you win, there's going to be some optimism. Again, Clemson's not going to be the toughest team that you face this entire year, but it's a good indication of how you're going to fare against consistent, tough competition in the SEC. So we'll see. But looking forward to it.
So you look at how the weekend played out, and I kind of I'm joking a little bit, but I'm being dead serious. Friday, we sat here for an hour and 40 minutes, and when we talked baseball, I kind of drank the Kool-Aid. I'll admit it. I went a little homerish. I went a little biased, and I kind of drank the Kool-Aid, and I kind of started to – I felt like I held myself back just enough, but I started to give him a little love. I started to give him a little praise. Hey, look at you. You got me going, Will Craddock. Oh, look at this young pup.
And he still had a good weekend.
He did, and we'll get to that. And look at this young pup. Scobie's playing really well. He did not have a good weekend. I like Tyler Bach and what he was doing. We talked about it. There's other players on this team. Talmadge LeCroy has played really well. And so I kind of said, all right, maybe that loss to Northern Kentucky, that was a wake-up call. All right, it happens. Kent State goes into Tennessee this weekend and takes 2 of 3 from the Volunteers. So these things do tend to happen, but I gave them love. And then by 5 o'clock, or 5:30, I guess, I was like, man, 5:30-ish, 6 o'clock, I was like, man, these guys let me down again. And they don't just lose on Friday. They get pummeled. It's 9-1. Army's hitting balls, almost back onto campus. I mean, it was bad. Like, that's not – Army had not won. Army had not won a Power 4 game against a Power 4 opponent since 2012. And they didn't just beat you. It wasn't 4-3 guys on second and third and they had to drive in the winning run. It was a get out of here. It's our ball. It's our stadium. You don't belong here because we're Army situation.
And my concern with this team through 2 weekends, because you had game number 3 against Northern Kentucky where, again, Maneir's like, hey, the injury wasn't there, these guys were tired, blah, 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 whatever those excuses were. Then you have game number 1 against Army. It's like, is this team just going to have one awful game every single weekend? Like, is that what we're just going to come to expect from them? Because that's not going to win you many things in the SEC, obviously. I don't know what, and again, the correlation between those 2 games, you got to figure that part out, but you got to be able to put 3 complete games, or at least close to complete games, together over the course of an entire weekend. And, again, we haven't seen that out of this team yet.
Well, not only have we not seen that, but it's coming at a time where I think confidence for both the team and the fan base is still very low. That you lose games like this, more people are willing to say that's who they are, and not the teams that I know not good competition. I get it. I'm not trying to accuse Gardner-Webb and Wofford of being College World Series teams. But people are more likely to be like, the team that lost to Army badly, that's who you are, not the team who beat Wofford and Gardner-Webb 20-4 and hit the ball really well. And again, I get it. I'm not trying to debate you on Wofford and Gardner-Webb being College World Series teams. But it did, I think, give you a little bit of hope and make you think, hey, this team, South Carolina, is at least beating those teams in the manner they should.
Yeah, and baseball's a game of ups and downs, and as much as we're praising Will Craddock, he's going to hit a little bit of a dip at some point this year, and the numbers are going to come down. That's just kind of natural, but as a team, you want to see the offensive numbers continue to be good, and one thing, and I've been kind of tracking this so far this year, is some of the specific stats that are concerning. And when we go back to last weekend against Northern Kentucky, when you were facing runners in scoring position, famously 4 of 30. This past weekend you went 8 of 31. That's better, but that's still not great. So situational hitting, when you have guys, the ability to drive them in, that's something this team is still not doing consistently enough. And again, if you want to win series in the SEC, yeah, it's great to go out there and blast a ton of home runs. We'll see if this team ends up being better from a power perspective than they were a year ago. But you have to find a way to manufacture runs when you have guys on base, guys on second and third, and this team's not doing that consistently enough right now.
I think this team has a chance. I'm not trying to praise them. I'm still interested. I think this team has a chance. We'll have to see. This is obviously a big week and then a big weekend. So we'll kind of continue to monitor that. Again, we'll talk with Jamie Bradford coming up later on today at 2:15 and talk a lot more baseball, get into some specifics of what is going on with that team, how he sees it. Riley Goodman, I think, clearly still trying to get into rhythm as the Friday night starter. I don't know how long you give him on that. Like, I don't know where the breaking point is on that, because you can't. It wasn't that he was bad against Northern Kentucky.
He did fine. He was solid.
Yeah.
You had him on a pitch count, so you weren't asking him to go deep into that game. And Maneri alluded to it, over the weekend. I forget which game it was after, but that they were going to reevaluate how your rotation looks for this weekend. And I'm not saying you're going to send Goodman to the bullpen or make him a midweek starter, but especially for how important game number 1 is going to be this week, I think Amp Phillips is probably going to be your Friday starter, and he had a great performance on Saturday against Navy, so I think you'd better be served of doing that, and then maybe you move Riley to Saturday, maybe Sunday, just kind of depending on how you feel about Brandon Stone. But yeah, and look, he is a redshirt freshman who's pitched in 2 games so far. He's going to have his growing pains, going to have his ups and downs. He's got good stuff, which is why they felt confident in putting him in that Friday role. But maybe just for this upcoming weekend, you kind of move around and see if that combination works better.
I don't think you do it this weekend.
You don't
I
think
don't know.
so?
We'll talk with Jamie about that. My initial gut is I don't do it this weekend. I stick with what I'm doing this weekend, where everybody's comfortable. It's next weekend. And I think it's kind of alluding to what you said. This is where it gets real. I'll tell you what, let's listen real quick. This is Paul Maneri talking about this past weekend, and what he's talking about here is what this weekend did for his ball club, playing Army on Friday, Navy on Saturday, and Air Force on Sunday. Here is Paul Maneri.
Well, I think, we grow every day, Jack, and, I told these kids, look, I told our players, these kids from these other teams, they are not afraid of us. They're not afraid of anybody. If you look at Kaz's schedule that he puts together, they go play everybody. I don't know. Midweek, weekend, they play the top teams in the country, so they're going to play fearless, and it's the way they're brought up. I mentioned Army had, I think, 7 seniors in their starting lineup, so those kids have been through the grind of 3.5+ years of a military academy. They're not going to be afraid of in a baseball game. For them, these are the fields of friendly strife. So our players were ready for the challenge, and I think that was good for our team. There'll be more talented teams on our schedule for sure, but nobody will ever play harder or compete harder than these kids do. So that's good for our team to kind of have to battle for it. And I thought for the most part, the Army game was terrible, but these last 2 games, I thought there were a lot of good things. I'm not concerned that we didn't get a ton of runs and a ton of hits tonight, because I really do believe that their relief pitching was really good. See, they were supposed to play College of Charleston tomorrow, but that game was canceled, and so they were able to use everybody out of their bullpen today that they probably were going to save for tomorrow for a 4th game. So that made it a little more challenging for us. So I think we grew. We'll see how much by the end of next weekend.
I think Paul Maneri is being. I don't think he's making excuses for his team. I don't think he's making excuses for him. I think he's being dead honest, and we just have to accept that at this point. You hear him talk about not being pleased with Friday. I don't know what else you want him to say aside from an apology to you, the fan, because of how they did.
Yeah, and again, that's his recap on the weekend after having won the last 2 games. So his mood was obviously different on Friday, in the moments following those games, or following that game specifically. But yeah, there's still plenty of room to improve on. You see things that you like with your pitching staff. Again, it's about being consistent, and these guys are hitting the ball, continuing to hit the ball. And again, big test this weekend against Clemson.
We'll come back. I'll ask you, what did you think about the weekend, playing the 3 games in the manner it was? What all did you think about it? It is scheduled to happen again, and we'll tell you more about that. You're listening to Tyler Head, Captain Dave Adair, and Bill Gunner. It is the Halftime Show. every day in South Carolina is grilling season. Some days it's just a little bit colder than others, and there's that white snow that's outside, and it's really tough to grill in the snow. Ask New York right now. But pretty much every other day, phenomenal. And you know who gets you ready to grill? Old Timey Meat Market. And you can visit one of their 3 locations, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, South Congaree, the Lexington store today, and pick up a delicious steak. Maybe you want some chicken. Maybe you want some pork. Maybe a little bit of seafood. They've got it all. Old Timey Meat Market has everything from great steaks to homemade soups. They've got bacon ready for you in the morning. They got breakfast biscuits. Again, they've got maybe you just want hot dogs. They got a whole carton of hot dogs ready for your next meal. Stop by one of their 3 locations and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Again, there's South Congaree, St. Andrews Road in Irmo, where they make some great patties, some great hamburger patties, or the Lexington store. Stop by today and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. Eight 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in this afternoon. So what'd you think? If you attended, how'd you view the weekend? What did you think, Tyler?
I thought it was neat, and I think, and we talked about this with Stuart Lake last week going into the weekend, that it gives you a tournament-style feel with that really being a tournament. You're seeing multiple teams across multiple days, so you get a little bit something different in each game. Got to shift the lineups around a little bit. Again, are you going to get to the postseason where that matters? I don't know, but I like being challenged that way early on in the season. And again, from the standpoint of what those 3 schools represent, being service academies and all that, it was cool to see the way they were honored and all that throughout the weekend. So I thought it was neat. Again, I didn't get to go out to any of those games, but I'm sure for those in attendance, it was pretty cool too.
Let's start with this. Would you enjoy seeing something round-robin-y kind of like this every year? The women, I think, had the Carolina Invitational and then the Carolina Classic, the softball team. But would you prefer South Carolina to do something similar to this and it not necessarily always be the service academy teams?
Yeah, I think if you wanted to do this every single year in some capacity, and I don't know, maybe you do a weekend set with Wofford, Clemson, and College of Charleston or something like that, local teams, or maybe you can go out and find some teams from the ACC or some other Power 4 leagues that want to come in here and play. I think that'd be neat. There's obviously a lot of Big Ten teams and stuff that want to come play in warmer weather this time of year while things are still heating up in the north. So yeah, I think the opportunity to do this every single year could prove beneficial. Now again, you got to get to the postseason for this kind of stuff to pay off, obviously, but I enjoyed it for what it was.
I can't and I'd be interested to ask Paul Maneri, do you think playing 3 different teams in 3 different days helps you for SEC play, or does it make it a little bit harder trying to figure out your rotation and your guys a little bit? Because, again, you're mixing things up and it's different. I don't know. My assumption would be it shouldn't hurt you, but then again, I don't know. I can't say I'm a baseball head enough to say, well, no, doing it this way is better, doing it that way I like better.
I think there's pros and cons to everything, and if we sat down with Paul Mainieri and asked him that, he'd probably give you positives and negatives, in both ways there. But again, it was what it was. Again, gave you an opportunity to see some teams that otherwise wouldn't really, come in here, and obviously cool to honor them and everything. But I enjoyed it.
803-404-6100. I will say this: while there is a fine line between being overly friendly and shaking hands and still wanting to demolish them. And at times I thought South Carolina might have been, look, Paul Mainieri, you know it. He went to Air Force. He coached at Air Force. Like, he has a true legitimate, if you listen to his voice last week when he talked about what was going to take place, and you just heard him actually in that last clip talking in particular about Army and how hard they play. He has an affinity not just for Air Force, but for Army and Navy. Like, he has an affinity for the service academies, and he understands what those guys have to go through. Mm-hmm. And he understands what they're doing both for our country and for themselves and for their school. Supposedly, over the weekend, I haven't seen it officially reported by anyone, but I did see it come out on a tweet. I thought it would be reported, so I didn't write down who it was. Somebody said that this will occur again in 2028. That they will come to town, and I wondered if it was a typo and not 2027, but I think according to Mainieri, this is set to be again a series in 2028. But shake their hand, honor them, but maybe don't give them the ballpark. Don't give them the keys to the park just yet.
Yeah. Again, it was what it was. Now I guess we can debate, will Mainieri still be here in 2028 if that is when they're going to do this again. So we'll obviously see.
803-404-6100. Let's go to the phone lines. Mark wants to weigh in this afternoon. Mark, how you doing? What's on your mind regarding baseball?
Good, guys. Hey, thanks for taking my quick call. So I think that you guys have a great idea. I think with the in-state thing, you have Wofford, Furman, even the Clemson series coming up. But play those series. I love the service academies coming in, but, maybe that first weekend, instead of playing Bryant or Northern Kentucky like Clemson did and we did, why don't you put in Wofford, Furman, and the Citadel, and then come back and have the service academies and then start going into your tournament? So maybe do 2 or 3 of those with the in-state schools, have the service academies come in, and then really start tailoring your season towards that and see what you really have, right? So there's no reason to not give, the in-state schools a little bit of love. I mean, the Citadel beat Army, on Sunday pretty good, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that if we kind of just, give everybody in the state a little bit of love and then go through that and then play Clemson like we do every year, I think that would be a great start to the season, almost like in football. Play your, your Division IIs, your NCAA Division IIs nowadays, and go from there, right? And kind of build into the SEC schedule while still facing a little bit of tough competition while getting some confidence. So, just want to hear your thoughts on that. I'll let you guys take it off there. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know if those schools would want to move. I mean, for example, South Carolina went and played at Wofford. Mm-hmm. They'll go play down against the Citadel later this year at Riley Park. I don't know if they've got a game with Furman this year. Now, you also remember all those teams, a couple of those teams are there in the Southern Conference. So Wofford and Furman, they're not going to play each other because that'll end up being a conference matchup. But I think you could do something kind of similar. Maybe it's not all in-state teams. Maybe you see if, like, say, Charlotte could come down, Georgia State wants to come over, and I don't know, like a VM. I'm just kind of spitballing here, but you get the point. Teams that can bust down.
Yeah, I think the specific teams aren't important in this necessarily. I think just having one of these kind of weekends where you can see 2 or 3 different teams, and maybe it is a tournament where maybe you rematch a team in the third game or whatever it may be, but it gives you something different than your typical weekend series that you're going to be doing 90% of the time throughout the rest of the regular season. So yeah, some capacity of something like this every year I think would be neat. Again, the opponents can vary, and whether it's Power 4 or service academies or whatever it may be, but I think you're on to something with what you did this past weekend.
Yeah, I like it. And look, I'll be honest, I didn't do it, but if you're just a baseball fan, you also had another game each day that was for free that you could go and check out depending on when it started. I think yesterday, correct me if I'm wrong in this, because Marshall and who was it yesterday? Marshall and Navy.
Yes.
Was that right? Yeah, Marshall and Navy. I believe. Well, that started at 11, and I believe you could go in for free, but then everybody had to exit the ballpark
Right.
and come back in with their ticket for Game 3 against Air Force.
Yeah, your ticket was for the South Carolina
Right.
game, but you could attend the other games as well. So hopefully people got to go out there and see a lot of baseball this weekend.
Hour 2 on the way. We'll get into some men's basketball as well. South Carolina, both men's and women's, with nice victories this weekend. Dawn Staley picks up a huge moment, too. We'll talk about it. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. You heard that right, over 30 years. Make sure you give them a phone call if you are in a little bit of need of a new roof. Let me tell you something. You don't know when leaks are going to happen, so be proactive. Get ahead of the game. Call Mid-State Roofing today, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. That's how you can reach out to them and schedule your maintenance. Get a maintenance contract lined up. Mid-State Roofing is there for you also 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You heard that right. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing will be there to take your phone call. Just give them a phone call. 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you, because you know what they say. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 1 o'clock on your Monday. Tyler Head, Bill Gunner, Captain Dave Adair as we roll through the weekend. Rick weighs in. I was there for every game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was very pathetic. Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, wrong word. No, we'll talk about something that was pathetic coming up here in a few minutes, which is why my head was there. It was very patriotic. Well done by South Carolina. Would like to see it again, but hopefully with better weather. Froze my rear end off yesterday. Had to be tough for the players. They're young. They're young and spry, and I don't know. I agree with you, though. I played baseball one time at a younger age in the cold, and I think baseball's probably the least enjoyable sport to play in the cold.
Yeah, when you're taking batting practice and it's 40 degrees outside and every hit goes off the end of the bat and gives you bumblebees, that ain't fun. But yeah, those guys are young. That doesn't bother them. I think they'll bounce back. You had really good weather on Friday for that game. Relatively good Saturday from what I remember, minus I guess a little bit of the rain delay. Yesterday,
A little windy. I don't know how it was down here. I know I ended up over at the boat show and over at the Columbia Boat Show, and then I know that early on it was a little rain. I'm trying to think back to my times. I left the boat show probably around 3 o'clock. And I believe it was still kind of raining. So, yeah, I think the rain didn't dissipate really until about 4.
My problem on Sunday was the wind knocking out my power constantly.
Oh, no.
Not knocking it out, but flickering.
Okay.
And, when your power flickers, it takes like 5 minutes for your internet to come back. So I kept getting behind because it'd be going, internet would go out, and I'd have to, catch back up. And I asked Jack about this earlier. I don't know what happened with the umpire at this is like the second or third inning. It was relatively early in the game where there was like a 10 to 15 minute break while they were trying to get somebody else suited up. That allowed me to catch up. But, yeah, that was a weird situation.
Yeah, I don't think they ever reported what happened to him.
They never did.
At least, I never saw anything. And if they said I had 3 TVs going. I had that. I had the Genesis Invitational, and I had the race going. And we'll get into that because, boy, NASCAR is off to a very interesting start between Daytona and 23XI winning, and now Tyler Reddick coming back and winning this week, actually knocking off teammate of 23XI, Bubba Wallace, to get that. But we'll get a take from Tyler here coming up on that because I feel like there's something there coming. I feel like there wouldn't be nothing there if they didn't have to settle a lawsuit right now, or they got it settled, I should say, in the offseason. But the fact that Jordan and his team have won the first 2, I don't know. There's something. Knowing Jordan, if you're just watching, the Last Dance and knowing all the little things, and I took that personal and so forth and so on, it feels like nobody's enjoying this more than he is.
You can definitely tell that he's having a very good time. And yeah, that's been interesting through the first couple weeks.
Anyway, 803-404-6100. If you want to weigh in on the weekend that was over at Founders Park, would you want to see more of a weekend series similar to that where South Carolina gets maybe 4 other teams even to come in and kind of plays them on a rotating basis? I mean, you could have a game on Thursday night and then 2 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, very similar to what they did. A lot of different options there, and we'll see if that's something. And by the way, I'll be honest, I don't know if you'd want to bring Citadel or Charleston in. I got a text message that Furman, I forgot about this, and the hullabaloo it caused. Furman dropped their baseball program a couple years ago, and I forgot how everybody got all pretty upset about that. But, it actually worked perfectly because obviously getting down to Charleston's not a huge deal, 2 hours.
Sure.
So teams can play a game or 2 up here and then head down there and play a game.
Yeah, and you have a lot of those fan bases coming in and all that kind of stuff. Again, I think to me the teams themselves are largely inconsequential. It's just having that type of tournament, round robin style, whatever you want to call it, early in the season, I think is beneficial for a team like South Carolina, and we'll see if they continue to do that.
For the record, Coastal Carolina will do something similar this weekend, but they will not be hosting. They are going to head out to Texas for the Bruce Bolt College Classic out in Houston at the it doesn't have me right here in front of it. It doesn't have the name of the Astros Stadium. I don't necessarily remember it, but they're playing at the Astros.
I think they do that every year.
Ballpark. I used to be Minute Maid Park. I have no clue, with sponsorships changing hands and everything now. But Coastal Carolina will take on Texas Friday night at 8 o'clock. Texas San Antonio Saturday at 4:05, and an early game Sunday against Mississippi at 11:05. And again, that'll be part of the Bruce Bolt College Classic. This past weekend, they held baseball at the beach, which actually featured VCU, Illinois, and Campbell as well down there. So, excuse me, not Campbell, but you had a rotation of teams just like it was here in Columbia.
Yeah, and a lot of teams around the country do this kind of stuff, and we'll see if that's something that Carolina makes a more permanent fixture going forward.
Also this weekend, basketball took place over at Colonial Life Arena Saturday, and this is what I was going to go with is pathetic. Number one, they won the game. That's great.
Yeah, most points scored in the Lamont Paris era.
So I'm not upset with them. But we do have to address something that Aaron Lucas kind of brought up that I've heard other players talk about, and that is kind of the treatment of foreign players. This doesn't fall on Lamont Paris. Lamont Paris is not responsible about this.
He's got other things to worry about.
Yes. So this is not, I am not taking shots at the coaching staff or the players. But how you have a Legends weekend and you don't promote it, the only way that I knew about it was reading, after our show, reading the pregame notes that come out on Gamecocks Online, where they have a pregame section. Like, you've got to, how do you connect your fan base to your program? This is not like, a 2026 problem.
Yeah.
This is consistent. With the last couple weeks ago, what was it, the ice storm or the snowstorm? It was ice that they honored the NIT teams and didn't tell anybody.
Well, and then and I understand a lot of guys couldn't come because of the travel. So, but there was no talk of rescheduling. Is they kind of threw it out there like, yeah, here it is. You know what I mean? And you're right. This isn't like I've been here doing this job for almost 4 years now, and these kind of things, unfortunately, keep popping up around Gamecock athletics, where they just these things that you think would be simpler to do during timeouts, during half times, whatever it may be, just completely become a mess, or it's something that nobody knows about, doesn't get promoted the proper way. And I'm like you, I didn't find out about this until I saw the tweet from the account, like at halftime or whatever.
You're talking about this weekend?
Yeah, this weekend, like, honoring the alumni, and all the responses were like, wish I would have known about this. Like, tell us. We'll promote it. We'll say, hey, if you go out there this weekend, you can see this team honored or these guys honored or whatever. It just feels like a half-blanked effort on the part of the university to just say they're doing something for the sake of doing it.
I saw in the picture, I saw Alex English. But, yeah, it would have been fun to take a trip down memory lane with some of the guys, whomever was there,
to
do it. Now, I get it. Like, for football and for basketball, you can't honor – it's hard to honor Colin Murray-Boyles and Gigi Jackson because they're in season, and they might show up and sit courtside, but you don't know when it's going to happen. It's very, very fluid. Same thing with football. Like, you don't know when guys are going to have an off week that maybe they can make it in, or if they are on their off week that they want to make it in, to hang out with their old college buddies, see their old college town. I got that. But these are things that are, like, planned. They are predetermined. You knew about this. They didn't schedule the NIT thing in January.
Put out a tweet a couple days before. Like, how, like, am I missing something here? Is that too much to ask? Just be like, hey, come this weekend and this is who you'll see.
Yeah, like, nobody knew. It wasn't promoted. It wasn't mentioned. Like I said, the reason I found out was because it's I read the game notes to learn what's going on. And that, same thing. I'll read the baseball game notes for this week, whatever. But, yeah, that's how I learned. Like, there was no mention of this. If you go to Gamecocks Online, like, I wonder if I go here to Gamecocks Online if they've already got this up for the football season. Normally, it's got the little thing that tells you, like, hey, this is military appreciation game. Hey, this is honoring so-and-so game. We talked about the Steve Tannehill thing. Like, go ahead and put that out there so that, you know what's going on. They don't even have the Gamecocks, which is fine, doesn't have the football schedule up if you go to 2026. But you knew about they knew about this back in October, November, on your schedule on the website where I go and read all the stuff, have underneath it Legends Weekend. And so then as I'm looking at it, I can go, oh, this weekend's Legends Weekend. Mm-hmm. Let's take a trip. Now, remember, y'all, I wasn't alive. You remember when Alex English did this? Oh, you remember when Devin Downey did? I don't know. I don't even know who was there. And that's the other thing. I talked to people who were there on Saturday. They just walked players out, stood them across the court from baseline to baseline, and everybody waved, and they're like, all right, our Legends.
Oh, they didn't even announce their names?
No.
What are we doing? Was it at halftime?
Halftime.
Okay, so you even had an extended period of time where you could have named people.
I will say this. It was baseline to baseline, and I don't know. They had family members with them.
Or you could have at least highlighted some of them. If Alex English is out there, that's worth highlighting, right?
If you don't know what he looks like, yeah. I mean, I say that not jokingly, but, Alex English played here
almost
50 years ago.
Especially if you're in the stands. Again, you're hundreds of feet away from the middle of the court. You can't tell who's who out there. Like, at least highlight some people. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, maybe you don't go down and name every single one, but you can point some people out. I don't know. These kind of things that happen too much.
Text always says I didn't catch that. Not that I listened to the college. I don't know how many people listen to the call-in show at this point, but Texter says they talked about it on the call-in show on Thursday night with Coach. Yeah, this has but good for Lamont to talk about it. Like,
which is fine, but that shouldn't be his job
Right.
to be the sole person promoting it. Like tweets, videos. I don't know. You have different platforms where you can promote these kind of things. Emails. Did they send an email about it?
it's a matter of tying your fan base, and we talk about Lamont Paris trying to connect with the community, and I've talked to former players. Right now, there's a bit of a divide in this. They don't feel necessarily welcomed back to the program. I know that it seems like that happens all the time. It doesn't sound like it's just a South Carolina thing. I think you feel like it. I think it feels like the only school who's really ultra successful in bringing players back is Miami, right?
Yeah.
And they're not the only school. There are others. It's just when you look over to Miami sideline, you see Michael Irvin going nuts like one of the Muppets,
Smacking things with belts.
Yeah, it stands out a little bit more. But with that being said, this is a fundamental issue that didn't occur this year, by the way. It has been ongoing for some time. There's got to be a commitment from that administration to promote that basketball team, whether they're 12 or whether they're 11 and 15 or 20 and 9, whatever it may be. You've got to promote that basketball team.
Yeah, I agree.
That program.
Yeah, I agree.
And by the way, that also means working with the coach, just for example, and I know they already do this, but to have more of a public, I can't remember what they did this year. It kind of runs together on me. I think my son went. I know they do the joint practice with Dawn Staley. I can't remember if they did that this year. Like I said, my years run together on me back in October, especially with what I was going through. But that's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally a good idea. And you get kids out to the arena. Remember they used to do it. Used to be the big deal, the Midnight Madness, and ESPN would televise it. And a lot of schools, even if it wasn't televised, would do it.
Yeah.
Be quirky. They did a great thing. I think Frank Martin was here where they did it on Main Street and put a goal out there and had a good time with it.
Yeah.
So they've done some things in the past, which shows me they're capable of doing it.
Sure. Yeah, I agree.
As for the game, that was the shooting team that Lamont Paris had talked about and told us that he was really excited to see.
Yeah, they finally showed up. Again, what does that win mean in the grand scheme of things? Probably not a whole lot, but it was nice to see them at least once this season in SEC play live up to what they were supposed to be, or at least play that way.
12 of 24 from three-point range is what they finished the ball game with. Again, I had said it for a while, even going into, hey, they're gonna have a game against somebody where they can't miss. Well, 12 of 24, you missed obviously, but they shot 50%, well above their season average from three-point range. Michi Johnson leads the way with 21 points. Mr. Do-It-All there. Can you imagine where they'd be without him this year on 5? He was 5 of 11. So not a great day, but he was 9 of 10 from the foul line. And that's really where this team excels, is the foul line, which makes it a little bit more of a shame they haven't gotten to the basket a little more frequently.
Yeah, that's the thing, is we've known they've been good at that all season long, and been able to take advantage of that when they could. Again, you've won more games than you did in conference play a year ago. What is that worth? I don't know. Again, I think we're all just kind of twiddling our thumbs, waiting for decisions to be made here in a couple of weeks. But at least for Saturday, if you were there, you can feel good about a win. Obviously good for the players. They haven't, thrown in the towel and folded for the season. So, yeah.
Really, 4 players carried the way. John Michi with 21. Kobe Knox had 17. Mike Sharmjohns with 21 himself, probably the best game he's played all year as a Gamecock. And then Elijah Strong, 6 of 11 from the field, 3 of 4 from three-point range, 16 points from him. So you got a nice little outing. Eli Ellis, 23 minutes and off the bench and 13 points. So you get a little bit from him coming off the bench and being able to provide things. One thing about Eli that I liked, 3 assists, no turnovers, and Sharmjohns, 5 assists, no turnovers. We'll come back, talk a little bit more about that, and continue rolling along. It is the halftime show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where again, for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. And that is the reason they've been leading the nation, leading the way in terms of the needs of your roofing, whether it's your home or your business, for over 30 years, whether it's a high-rise or a hospital, manufacturing or industrial. Mid-State Roofing designs and installs bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps that operation dry and running long into the future. And again, they do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So you can give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Any time of the day, anywhere you're at, you got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Work with them on a maintenance contract there. You can also visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. But again, give them a phone call. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you, 803-356-1919. Feel a little bit like a recovering addict. We don't have the Olympics on to entertain us as we have had for the last better part of 2 weeks in the afternoon. So we're watching or keeping up with the SEC network. Normally I'm up here keeping up with curling or some kind of skiing or bobsledding right now. And instead, it's all gone. It's all gone. It's poof with the wind, just like that.
Yeah.
Winter Olympics 2026 is gone.
When none of us will watch curling for another 4 years
I
until
already forgot about it.
2030. We'll see if this Olympics can have the same, or next Olympics can have as much controversy as this one had. But yeah, just listen, our kind of go-to is putting on ESPN or the SEC Network in here, and apparently the swimming and diving championships were over the weekend. So they're replaying that, we are kind of readjusting ourselves back to the other sports now.
I saw the best bunch of guys doing a curling thing in the road in front of their house. This was in Wisconsin. Did y'all see that?
I did. It's taken over.
Yeah.
Well, Elijah told me that in Nashville, they have a curling rink now. So, like axe throwing became a big thing for a while. We got some axe throwing places around here. Maybe curling's that next, group activity.
I feel like I heard about one of those in Wisconsin or Minnesota. It might have been that because obviously that's a piece of information that once it's told to me, it goes in one ear and out the other because I'm not anywhere within really driving distance to get there. But I can look. The thing is, like you just said, it goes out the door very quickly for us, right?
Sure.
Like, okay, all right. That was back to basketball now. Oh, okay. The NHL, for those of you that are in the NHL. Oh, okay, the NHL is back. Okay, here we go. Oh, the NFL Combine's coming up. Let's get into that. Curling is gone. Never existed until it pops back up in 4 years.
Yeah, I'll be like, oh, yeah, now I remember. And you can't, how long you can touch the rock once you've released it.
Oh, Lord.
You're not allowed to touch it with the broom things. And there was more controversy and gray area to that sport than I knew.
So
these guys had 6 packs of beer, and they were on
yeah. You talking about throwing them down the frozen street? Yeah, I saw that.
That was great. That was fantastic.
Now, I guess the thing is whoever wins keeps all the beer.
I don't know.
I would think.
Either way, you get to drink a bunch of beer afterwards.
Look, I mean, it could be America's pastime, and we've just missed the boat completely. But speaking of America's pastime, everybody knows it's hockey, and we taught the Canadians a lesson yesterday. So how did you two, I'll start with you, Tyler. Dave, well, let me start with Dave. Let's go this way because I feel like this is 50-50.
Okay.
Dave, did you watch the hockey match yesterday?
I watched some of it. I was a little put off early because I went to the gym.
Oh well.
And there was a Canadian guy there.
Uh-oh.
Who's like,
the one Canadian guy in town was at your gym?
One Canadian guy.
And he was on the row machine next to you?
Canada. And some guy asked him, well, when did you come here? He said, when I was 6.
Like, are you really Canadian at that point?
Yeah, really. I mean, you've been here the whole time. And then he's talking about how great Canada is. We're going to kick their butt. This is all going to be over for you. You don't have a chance. And that was, okay. But nobody was really.
I will say one of the funnest things about yesterday was watching the reactions of Canadian fans that were at watch parties and bars and all that kind of stuff, taking it in because, that's their sport, right? Like, it's almost the equivalent of, how we watch college football here, where we live and die on every single game. And, we read O'Hara's when South Carolina blew the 27-point lead to A&M, and I got to see the distraughtness of Gamecock Nation all around me, witnessing that. That's very much what it reminded me of, these people just in utter shock and disbelief that they lost their sport to America.
Well, this is the funny part to it. And I'm not saying everybody. I mean, certainly probably the further north you get, the more into it probably some people were. But I would say 90 to 95% of Americans, if we'd have lost, if they score, especially in overtime yesterday, our day goes on.
Yeah, it's that would have been fun if they would have won. But, yeah, back to whatever, basketball, baseball, whatever your other fixes of sport is. But, yeah, it's not something that would have kept a lot of Americans up last night.
You wouldn't have seen a video of an American taking a chainsaw to a TV.
No.
Or throwing what looked like a mug of bourbon down and at the TV.
And I think that's what bothers them the most is it's a sport we don't care the most about as a society, right? Football's number one. You can debate where basketball and baseball and all that kind of stuff falling behind it, but football's our biggest deal, right? And maybe we'll have these emotions when flag football's in the Olympics coming up in a couple years. We'll obviously see, but the fact that, Canada, it's their sport. America as a whole doesn't care about it on the same level that they do, and they lost it, and we celebrate it, and then we kind of go on about our day after that, or our week or whatever. I think that adds to the frustration to our friends from the north of how much that one hurt.
I guarantee it did, and it was, like you said, watching social media, it was really funny because if Canada had won, they would have been looking to trash talk and would have been like, yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
You send your best Canadian Football League team down here.
Sure.
And let them play the Seahawks, and let's see how that works out. How about you do that? Put your Canadian Football League team all-star together and send them on down here. We'll meet them in Detroit, and let's see how that works.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when we do flag football, do we assume like Canada's the second best nation at that? That we're kind of like, all right, it'll be America and Canada in the finals. They're two nations that play the most football. I don't know. I'm interested to see.
I think at times some people that I know look at Australia because of rugby.
That's true.
And not that it's football, but because that's like hockey playing football. There's toothless people running around out there because there's no helmets in the way they play.
Yeah.
But that yesterday was awesome. And I said it earlier, Tyler and Dave, and this is the big thing is it was just great TV because and I say whether you had a rooting interest or not, well, I'm pretty sure most of you were pulling for America. It's not like Carolina playing Clemson or Alabama playing Auburn. Maybe you don't have a rooting interest. I can pretty much figure out who you're pulling for, but it was just a great game. It's not even like USA went up 3-0 and then we were seeing if Canada could come back. It's not like Canada was up 2-1 and they held on for whatever. I mean, we scored early. 2 periods of just like hold your breath, and Canada's shoving it down our throat, by the way. I mean, they are coming at us, attacking left and right, and we're holding on for dear, dear life.
You can speak to this more because I wasn't alive when this happened, but when the Braves won the World Series in '95 over Cleveland, that final game was 1-0, where you're hanging on every pitch because every pitch can change the game completely if they hit a home run or whatever it may be. I think something similar with yesterday, the fact it was a low-scoring game, America had the 1-0 lead, Canada scores, it goes into overtime, and then it becomes sudden death. When every shot could quite literally change the entire game, that builds that intensity. You then go into overtime, and obviously the next shot ends the thing. And I said this earlier, it was almost because when Hughes made the shot, it took a second to realize that it went in.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't an instant like, oh, he scored. It was like, oh, he scored. And then the celebration ensues from that.
Well, and I feel like that happens all the time in hockey.
It's easy to lose the puck,
and all of a sudden it's in the back of the net, and guys are celebrating. Basically, you're like, what happened? And the siren goes off, and you're like, oh, we scored. Okay, all right, everybody, slap hands. By the way, that Braves game, I was 13, so you're talking 30 years ago, a little over 30 years ago, 31 years to be exact. Here's all I remember about it. Tom Glavine was in control. Like, I had to look it back up. The Braves scored in the 6th. It might have felt like that to others.
David Justice home run, right?
I think it was.
And didn't he also catch the pop fly to end it?
I don't remember that. You might be right, but all I remember about that game as a 13-year-old was like, man, like, they can't hit Glavine. Yeah, this was when I was actually playing baseball.
But again, all it would have taken was one hit.
But 13-year-old Bill didn't quite understand that.
Right.
Like, all Bill understood was, Tom Glavine's like, he's mowing them down. Because they only had one hit in that game.
Yeah.
But going back to yesterday, just fun. It was just great. It was like a great game. It goes to overtime, which you want even more. They get into. Now, I will say I'm not sure I'm a fan of the 3-on-3, but it worked out in our favor. I love it. So it goes to that. You get the golden goal situation, the sudden goal, which makes it. And I'll just say this when we hit the break. I'm telling y'all, I've been banging the drum. It won't be as intense, but it's darn near close. Playoff hockey is great.
Maybe you need to indoctrinate me as a Carolina Hurricanes fan because I don't have an NHL team.
All right.
Thrashers left when I was a kid. Like, maybe I need to become a Hurricanes fan.
We'll finish this conversation, get into a little women's basketball as well. They dominate yesterday. It is the halftime show. We got some differing opinions on who called. It's funny where the show will go sometimes. Texter weighs in and said Glavine controlled. Oh, no, y'all right. Y'all are good. Glavine controlled. Justice hit the home run, and Grissom caught the final. Marquise Grissom caught the final out. Another texter, AJ, weighs in and says, pretty sure Marquise Grissom caught the final pop fly to win the World Series. So we got to the bottom of that. And, all right, sounds good there. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. We were talking about the hockey there. And again, just to kind of wrap up that conversation, again, just from a game, a match, whatever, how you want to clarify it, standpoint, and especially if it's more of like a niche sport, kind of like I go back, what was it? Maybe 4 years ago. I think it was 4 years ago, actually. I believe we were playing Italy in the World Cup. It was something we'd done something. It was a big day. It was one of those that was like Thanksgiving weekend too. I think it was Thanksgiving weekend because they were having it. They were having the World Cup when it wasn't so hot. Is it Qatar?
Yeah.
Where it was at,
because their final was like December,
yeah,
like 20th or something like that. It was real late. It was real late in the year.
But I want to say, and that's how these things work. And I will always remember yesterday, but because it's again not the main sport, it goes in and out of our mind. We're all in it. We're all invested in one moment, and then it's kind of like, oh yeah. Now I do think yesterday will be one of those like, where were you when you saw the goal kind of moments? Like, oh, I was in church and I read it on Twitter, or oh, I was at my house, or I don't know if any local establishments opened up around here at 8 a.m. Obviously, you saw across the country and in Canada, a bunch of places had opened up. I did see that it was mildly entertaining that they opened up the Toronto Maple Leafs Stadium,
yes,
for viewing and to watch the reaction of all the fans. And it was packed. The lower bowl there was packed. To handle that the way it went down, just stunned silence in that arena.
Yeah, I've been enjoying the Canada reaction videos. But yeah, it's one of those moments that you're going to remember forever. Now, I'm interested to see, because again, we're a little over 24 hours removed from it, like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as we go through another couple of Olympics that hopefully leads to more success for America. How do we look back on this, right? Like, 10 years from now, where are we ranking this in terms of all-time sports moments? I think it's going to be pretty high. Again, I think Miracle, just kind of given everything else around what was happening back in 1980, is still going to be number one in a lot of people's minds, but this one's going to be up there for sure.
Well, Miracle 1980 is a massive upset, though.
It is.
Like, it's a massive, massive upset. Like, it's John Daly winning the British Open as an alternate. It is the upset Cinderella story, and you've got the movie actually. And I see that y'all must have mentioned the movie earlier because people were not happy with y'all for having not seen it.
Wes has not seen Miracle. That was his confession for the day.
Okay,
he got on us about not seeing Cool Runnings last week.
Oh,
so he was like, I got a confession. I haven't seen Miracle. I was like, I think it's on Disney Plus if you want to check it out.
Yeah, and it's a it's a sports motivational movie also. Like, you can watch it leading into a football game or a basketball game.
There was somebody that you probably saw the clip at some bar
doing Atlanta.
Doing the Herb Brooks speech before the third period. Like, it's culturally relevant to everyone.
Yeah. So, but yesterday was really cool. Yesterday was a standalone event. I don't want it to be compared to I saw people tweeting about that. I saw Dave Portnoy put something out. I was like, don't let anybody tell you that he's right. It was not comparable. We were expected to be here. There were people who thought that if we lost, it was going to be an upset on us. And, so yesterday was a standalone event. But because we hadn't won a gold medal since 1980, I think also the fact that, you got to laugh, right? But the fact that the guy who gets the goal is basically, is missing his two. Every perception we have about hockey,
it played out perfectly.
Right.
And that picture, by the way, of him with the American flag, mouth bleeding, teeth gone, like, that is going to be in every bar. That's going to be on T-shirts. That's going to be on flags. Like, that picture is going to get so much run now. It's incredible. You couldn't have asked for anything better. Also, Jack told me this morning, apparently this guy's dating Tate McRae.
Yep.
So he's just winning at life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what a run this guy's been on. Number one overall pick a couple years ago for the Devils. Like, man, incredible.
Yeah, you truly had every. And then, and it was emotional. It was. But then not only that, You've got
Johnny Gaudreau's kids.
Gaudreau, thank you.
His jersey and all that.
Now you bring in the emotional aspect
that was
of
heavy.
it. I mean,
his wife was there, his parents. Like they made sure he was still included in.
Because he would have been on the team, is what they basically said. That's why they had his jersey. Well, they weren't doing it as. I mean, he would have been a part of that team in there.
Right. Because was it right at a year and a half ago when he got
I think
killed?
it was a little more.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't all that long ago, but yeah. And look, hockey's a brotherhood. You know, all those guys knew him and probably came up playing with him and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, there's a lot of connection there, a lot of emotions, and yeah, that getting his kids out there on the ice, take a picture with the jersey and stuff was very neat.
So it was everything you want. You had that emotion, you had the excitement of winning, you had the new All-American kid Jack Hughes taking some teeth to the some stick to the teeth.
Okay, here's my question: does he leave it that way? Do you get it fixed?
That's not his decision, apparently.
It's not
Tate McRae's.
Well, yeah, that's true. But like that symbol of like those teeth being lost in the midst of going on the way to win, scoring the golden goal. Like I don't know, man. Maybe I just leave it the way it is. Yeah, maybe the girlfriend has something to say on that. And I imagine there's a million dentists across America, probably every dentist in New Jersey, banging down his door right now to do that dental work.
Yeah. If you're a high-profile dentist,
I'll do it for free. Just give me a shout-out in the tweet afterwards or whatever.
But no, I mean, again, it had everything you wanted, and on top of that, it was just an incredible match, and it was fun, and we won. You can't ask for more. Let's go out to the phone lines. Bruce wants to weigh in this afternoon on the gold medal game. Bruce, how you doing? What's on your mind? We got Bruce. Oh, Bruce hung up. Well, we must have made his point for him. But yeah, and we'll wrap this up here. Overall, I will admit I tried last night. I tried because I get it. They're beautiful and they're well choreographed and everything. Yeah, I can't watch the opening or the closing ceremonies.
No, you're not into that?
I can't. I couldn't get into it.
There was so much other stuff going on. I didn't get a chance to check it out. I mean, it's cool.
It really had been a sports overload day.
It really, yeah. And I saw your tweet of all your viewing screens going on. I try and stick to 2. Like if I go to 3, that's a little bit of overload for me. So I tried to stick to 2. I had the race and baseball on through most of the afternoon yesterday. But yeah, you had a lot of options.
Well, yeah, it was sports overload. And you had the Braves making their spring game debut.
I can't figure out where to watch them.
I didn't understand it either. And somebody put out I don't know if it was Mark Bowman or who, made a point that the deal to broadcast the Braves right now is one of the more interesting stories that's not being covered because we want to know where we can watch the Braves.
Right, because
coming up at the end of March.
They're working on starting their own network.
Right.
In fact, over the weekend, for all the people that were employed at what was then FanDuel Sports Network out of Atlanta, they got laid off.
Yeah.
74 employees that got laid off over the weekend. Now, I imagine some of those will still end up on whatever this Braves sports network is going to be, but yeah, they haven't finalized anything yet. I know Gray Media, which is has a local station in Atlanta, 11 Alive, is working on some things kind of in the meantime. So I don't know what's going to happen, but yeah, typically you'd be able to put on FanDuel Sports or what used to be Bally, Fox Sports South, and you could watch spring training, but that's not the case right now.
Yeah, but yeah, they were on and streaming somewhere, but there was all kinds of issues yesterday, and so hard to watch them. So you had. I mean, again, the Genesis Invitational, which was phenomenal. Again, we're going to talk Auto Trader 400 in just a minute and get Tyler's take on that. Again, you had the hockey in the morning, and it was a really good weekend of college basketball as well. You had Michigan State and Ohio State yesterday, but we'll talk a little bit about the weekend that was Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Houston. When we come back, you're listening to the Halftime Show. 147 on your Monday, final week of February, and then it's the madness of the green month, March. So we will get you set for that, get you set. South Carolina, Clemson baseball this weekend. We'll kick it off as we get closer. We'll catch up with Jamie Bradford coming up in the next hour and talk about that. But as we get closer to the end of the week, we'll talk about that. Tyler and I, will be live from Pro Swing over on Forest Drive coming up on Friday from 12 to 3. So plan to come by and see us there and hang out with us. And we'll get you set for the Carolina Clemson baseball game. First time since 2022. Now, that's not that long ago, but 4 years, a lot happens in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be the first time in 4 years that South Carolina has opened a Friday night game here at Founders Park against Clemson. 2024 got rained out, never made up.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I don't know if that matters or not.
Well, it matters from the standpoint of trying to get the weekend off on the right foot, which goes back to our conversation about who do you start, with the rotation. Do you go Ant Phillips? Do you give Riley Goodman another nod at Friday or move him to Saturday? Because you have a home game, a de facto kind of home game on Saturday, and then Sunday you're in the upstate. So you'd ideally like to have the series wrapped up before you have to go up there, because that in and of itself is going to be its own challenge.
South Carolina baseball, by the way, will take on Queens on Wednesday over at Founders Park, 6:30 for that game. But again, this weekend, Friday night at Founders Park against Clemson, 7 o'clock. That game will be on the SEC Network Plus. On Saturday, it'll be on the ACC Network Plus, 3 o'clock. And you mentioned you and Elijah will be out there
as well. We'll be out there Saturday. We're planning to be at the entrance of Segra, so as you're walking in, getting your tickets and all that, you can come by, hang out with us. I'm sure we'll have some T-shirts and stuff to give away, and getting you set on what should be, right now, looking at the weather, a beautiful Saturday.
And then Sunday up at Doug Kingsmore, 3 o'clock for that game. Clemson will come in ranked 15th, by the way, according to D1 Baseball. 803-404-6100. So I'm not sure where to take the storyline, and that's why I defer to you.
Yeah.
But I do feel like Michael Jordan smiling, tongue-wagging, his team winning the first two races of the year means something.
Oh, it means a lot to him, and he's been at both races. They've interviewed him during the race and after each race, and he's very giddy. And again, for somebody that's a big competitor, I imagine this is extra special considering the lawsuit and all that kind of stuff that happened in the offseason, because there was a legitimate threat of this team not being a thing anymore. If they lose the lawsuit and how NASCAR viewed that he could have lost all that, they would have had to sell the team and all that kind of stuff. So they come to the agreement, and then to come out and, win the first two races at Daytona and Atlanta, it means a lot to him. He seems to be having a very good time, and he's a big fan in general, and the team's having some of the best success they've ever had.
Now, you'll get into it on Thursday. I'll be out on Thursday, a doctor's appointment for me.
Yep.
But Doug Turnbull will join you, and y'all can really break it down. But Tyler Reddick winning the first two races of the year, he's the actual driver. Pretty impressive for him to get off to this kind of hot start.
Well, he's missing a fender yesterday, which made it all the more impressive. But, and I've talked about this a couple times with the changes to the championship format going from the playoffs to the chase. And I saw somebody make this point on Twitter yesterday, and I thought it was a really good one. This still doesn't guarantee him anything. He could go on a phenomenal run in the first 26 races, be the number one seed going in the chase, and go on to win the championship, or he could hit the skids coming up in the summertime, fall off a cliff, and miss the chase completely. And they were saying, oh, my God, this guy that started off the year well, couldn't put together a full 26 races to make the championship. And that's what's fun. That's what's exciting. And I love that we now have those storylines to build in. Kyle Larson yesterday, wrecks himself basically at the end of stage 2 and cost himself a lot of points. That could be valuable come later on in the year. Connor Silich, dead last in points of all full-time drivers right now. How does he overcome that? You have all these small little stories starting to develop in the first couple weeks of the season, and Atlanta and Daytona being drafting tracks, that's not necessarily indicative of how you're going to run on a week-in, week-out basis when they go to more traditional tracks coming up here in a couple weeks. So we're really going to figure things out over the course of the next month. Darlington's coming up. Las Vegas, Phoenix, of who the real week-in, week-out contenders are going to be. But for the time being, Reddick's done a great job getting the season started. By the way, you did not win yesterday. You came in second.
Oh, did I? So that was what I was going to ask, is I was kind of looking at the standings right here.
Yes.
I was going to text you, and then I got tied up doing all those 9 million other things. By the way, I had a strategy for that. I was like, well, the race, I can catch the very end of the race. The way it was all timing out was the
Yes.
race was going to be the last thing. So I had the big TV. I put a video up on Twitter. You can go to my Twitter account at Will Gunter and go back and look at the video. But I had the big TV on the baseball game, the second TV on the Genesis Invitational, and then the third TV, which I can see from the couch on the race.
Yep.
But yeah, how did we finish up? Because Bowman did not or was not running good. He was running his average. Remember, I told
Yeah.
you I had a strategy. I was like, well, he's running his average throughout the day.
Yeah, he finished 2 laps down in 23rd. So you got the second most points. Doug got Ryan Blaney, who finished 10th. So he got the most points. And I had Riley Herbst, who crashed out early in the race, and he finished 33rd. So 2 weeks in a row, I'm dead last.
Okay, all right. So Doug and I would then be tied, or no, I'm a point ahead of him.
No, you were both tied with 5 points.
All right, yep. So that's what I figured. So all right, we are off to our NASCAR Survivor Challenge. I've now used Alex Bowman and Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
That's correct.
And you've used who?
I've used Cody Ware and Riley Herbst.
You might have to look at your strategy again. I know
I have a strategy. Don't worry.
I know you're saving some folks for the end of the year, but be careful with that. Be careful with that strategy. 803-404-6100. Also, yesterday, the much anticipated. It was kind of odd because it felt like Mississippi was built up for this game by ESPN a little bit. This is why I don't watch the women a lot, because not because I don't like women's basketball. It's because this is what Dawn Staley and crowd do to people. 85-48.
And look, this was an Ole Miss team that had LSU beaten
Exactly.
the other night, and then they just had a disastrous fourth quarter and let it slip through their fingers. So they were capable of playing up to the competition level that they were going to be going up against on Sunday. But yeah, it's Dawn Staley teams typically do, no matter what you're ranked, especially if you come into Colonial Life Arena. They crush your dreams pretty quickly. And it was a little back and forth in the early stages, but, I mean, they put their foot on the gas basically in the second quarter, and that was it.
Well, it was 20-16 at the end of the first quarter, and then just like that, in the blink of an eye, it's 41-25 going into halftime. And I don't know how other teams take it. I mean, you can be a good team, right? You can be a good team, and you can look and be like, we're not as good as that team.
Yeah.
And I think there's pretty much 98% of the teams out there that when that happens and you look up going in the locker room and you're down 15+ to South Carolina and you're like,
Yeah,
we can't come back.
What's the motivational speech at that point?
Don't lose by 30.
Yeah. And Coach Yo, it was fired up yesterday, and rightfully so. But, that's just what Carolina does.
Speech didn't work. South Carolina outscored them 25-9 in the third quarter as well. Hour 3 on the way. We'll get into some baseball with Jamie Bradford. It's the halftime show. Final hour of the Monday program. Tyler Head, Captain Dave Adair, Bill Gunner, as we roll along fresh off of just an absolutely action-packed, sports-filled weekend. I know at the Gunner household we also celebrated my father's 73rd birthday. Little trip out with the family on Friday night for some hibachi food.
Nice.
Good little time. Everybody was all smiles and giggles. And then they did that fire on the table, and everybody lost their eyebrows.
I used to be afraid of that when I was a kid.
Oh, dude.
I used to, because where I'm from, we had a Japanese restaurant nearby, and that was the go-to place for every birthday, every special event. Hey, let's go to Tokyo. And I would hide a menu under the table after they took our order because I didn't like the flame.
Oh,
so I would
wise.
right before he hit it, I guess I didn't like the feeling of it on my face. So I put the little menu up and then I give it to the waiter or waitress or whatever afterwards. But I've come around on it.
Yeah, it was fun. Like I said, we had everybody was there. All the family was there. It was a good time. But yeah, they poof. And thankfully, I had seen it coming, so I slid my chair back because that particular hibachi restaurant we were at, I don't know if the tables are closer than average. I don't know if the fire is bigger than average because there was a table, the little section behind me has the two tables, and everybody's at it. You know, the chef walks in the middle.
Yeah.
And he goes right or left. And both times, so the one in front of me about got the eyebrows, and then the two behind me, I could feel those on my back of my neck.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know if we're close together, if
Right.
their little explosion is just a little bit more intense than the others, but
Was there an onion volcano?
onion volcano, everything.
Classic. Yeah, gotta have it.
Everything that give the chef credit. Don't know his name, but give the chef credit. He did a heck of a job. Papa Gunner was very happy, and everybody was nice and full, and we had a great time. So, and then we went and celebrated a great weekend. I did say Friday night was a little slow on the sports. I watched a little bit of Olympics, but I got into watching Purdue and Indiana, and Purdue just drubbed. I like Braden Smith, the point guard for Purdue, and I like watching him play. Just a throwback player. But I watched a little bit of that. But then Saturday, Tyler, if you love college basketball, it was an incredible Saturday. And I know our buddy Brian Edwards was down in Oxford.
Yeah, he was there.
And he called that one. Florida looks like a national championship caliber team. And you had a chance to watch the top four in action against each other to see what national championships will look like this year.
Yeah, it was, and again, I don't know if that's ever happened before where the top four are all playing each other within the regular season, but nevertheless was good. A great day of basketball overall. Hey, Carolina even won there. The Duke for Michigan game obviously came down to the very end there. That was fun to watch, and then Arizona goes into Houston, picks up a huge victory, and they got Kansas tonight, I believe. So
Houston,
another big matchup. Houston does. That's right. Yeah. Houston does. Kansas beat Arizona already, but yeah, a lot of great action as we close in on the end of the regular season.
It'll be interesting. Big Monday tonight. Houston goes to Kansas. They were actually showing shots of Bill Self, who, man, I know he is ready. You know, and I get it. And we had a little bit of this conversation last week about dealing with an elite recruit and all the things you got to put up with. And if you didn't see it over the weekend, Darren Peterson played the most he's played, but it didn't look good. It looked wildly uncomfortable with him and his teammates. They get scorched. I mean, just ripped by Cincinnati and Wes Miller. And I like Wes, got to know him when I was doing AAU. But they got scorched, Tyler. And it just brings to questions how big of a distraction for that team, a national championship caliber team. We talk about Arizona and Duke and Michigan and Houston, and we'll see Houston again tonight. Kansas can win national championship. They can do it without Darren Peterson too, by the way. But that kid is clearly, like, they got to figure. And it's not that he's doing off the court action. It's that they're trying to figure out how to play with him.
Well, and if you've ever been on any team in the locker room, if there's one guy with an ego that thinks he's better than everybody else, that creates a riff. And, you know, how you work with teammates, how the game plan goes, and all that can certainly be affected. And I imagine that's got to be what's happening inside the Kansas locker room, because on a game-in, game-out basis, again, Bill Self didn't even know that he was going to take himself out of the Oklahoma State game when he did the other week after scoring a ton of points in the first half or whatever it was. So I imagine his teammates the same way, like, hey, can we really rely on this guy when at any moment he could, you know, pull on his jersey jersey and say, all right, I've done enough, I'm getting out. That's not the teammate that's probably going to be the most loved, despite the fact that he's incredibly skilled, and that's the reason why he's still got the shot to be a number 1 overall pick in the draft lottery coming up here soon. But it's very clear he's kind of going through the motions. Now, yeah, he's willing to play more in most of the bigger games, it seems like, which that's good. At least he's not trying to actively sit out most of those. Did sit out that Arizona game that Kansas was still able to win there. But yeah, if I'm his teammate, I'm just kind of like, all right, dude, whatever. We're gonna do this ourselves.
You know, we haven't really talked much about it, but Charlie Baker is again on this gigantic push to expand the NCAA tournament. And you're younger than me at 29, so you're not. There's a 14-year age gap. And so about 14 years of me really enjoying the NCAA tournament. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed it when I was younger and had less responsibilities and you could skip school. And why did you spend 6 years in college, Bill? Well, you know, sporting events got in the way sometimes. Sure, let's go with that. But the point being is like, don't expand this thing. Like, this is the perfect number. 64 was great. 68, okay, all right, I'll buy in. Sure, I'm here for it. Don't go to 76 or 80 or whatever you're talking about, whatever ludicrous number you're coming up. Stay with 64 or 68. I'm sorry.
It's a money grab, right? And this is being done for the SEC teams that are under 500 or the teams in the Big 12 or Big 10 that, you know, didn't get an at-large bid. You know, this isn't to let more good mid-major teams in that may have lost their conference championship or something along those lines. It's to benefit, you know, the big schools as most of these decisions with realignment and expansion and all that come. And, you know, we can look at like the college football playoff expansion. Like this year was a perfect example of like, hey, in a 4-team era, Miami would have never gotten the opportunity to be even close to the national championship because of how their season unfolded. This year, being the 10th seed and almost not getting in even with that, they were able to go on a run, and they were a legitimate national championship threat. I don't think anybody looks as the teams that are right now 69 through 76 that miss out on the tournament and have to go play in the NIT as any of those teams being legitimate national championship threats. You're just adding more teams to add more teams. And again, I said if we're going to expand it, I would like to see where you're not putting these smaller conference champions in the play-in round, saying, all right, fine, you want to expand it, but it's going to be all at-large teams. If you win your conference, you're in the field of 64 proper. No more going through Dayton. Let those teams that truly are at-larges work their way into the field instead.
And I'd prefer that's a change I would like them to make regardless. Yeah. Like I do genuinely feel I've talked to guys who've played in the NCAA tournament. They've talked about the experience, the way you're kind of treated, everything about it is just incredible. You know, that was the thing for Duke and Michigan this week. Both of those coaches, because they did College Game Day on Saturday morning during their shoot-arounds, basically, and the open style that they had to have a practice with on Friday and Saturday that was open to the public, much like the NCAA regionals where you can go and watch your team work out.
Right.
And both coaches really enjoyed that. I think you might see a little bit more of that, especially from the top-tier programs in mid to late February moving forward, as kind of a game to really prep your guys and have them ready to go for the pressure and the scrutiny that comes with being an elite team in the NCAA tournament. But that was a really fun game. Arizona, if you haven't seen him, Tommy Grady he just gets the job. He's a smart coach. He seems, on paper, to be an honest coach compared to, say, I don't know, the one and only Sean Miller, who knows what exactly he was doing when he was on the phone behind closed doors.
Yeah, for sure. And was it? Because we talked about it with Friday and with Brian Edwards, because Koa Pate didn't play on Saturday, correct, for Arizona, and they still found a way to win. So, yeah, and again, that's a team that has looked capable throughout the entire year. They've obviously lost the game to, I'll get it in the break, don't worry about it. Trying to plug in my laptop here. But they lost the game to Kansas the other week, but still capable as anybody of going through and winning. It's going to be really fun to see all these teams shake out in terms of the brackets, who ends up on what side and all that, in terms of, you know, the tournament coming up here.
And again, that leads us to South Carolina basketball. We'll get into a lot of South Carolina baseball coming up this hour with Jamie Bradford, but that leads us to South Carolina basketball, who, you know what, those kids, I'll say this, they've kept battling. I can't agree with everything, the decisions that have been made in terms of coaching decisions. Somebody asked us earlier if maybe these last few, maybe you go with Eli Ellis in the starting position as opposed to Miles Stute. I think there's a million questions, a million things we can bring up and ask. But the players, I'll say this for them, they haven't they haven't quit. And even in the loss to Florida, I get it. You start getting beat the way they were getting beat up here. It can look like you've quit. The Arkansas game, I don't think they've quit. I think they've gotten down on themselves to the point that they just realize they're in a futile effort to win a basketball game, like when you're down 25 and Florida's just dunking on your head.
Yeah, again, you're not really playing for anything here. Yeah, I think that's a good point about maybe moving somebody like Ellis into the starting lineup, because I think are we operating under the assumption that it's more likely that Paris comes back right now, or is it truly still 50-50? Because I can't tell either way. Because if you think he's going to come back, like, operating with, like, hey, let's move some things around to build towards next season is a smart thing to do.
If he's going to come, this is my opinion, and Jeremiah Donati can do. Jeremiah Donati can do what he wants to do. I'm not trying to tell him how to do his job or what to do. I will say this is how I would do it, but I'm not trying to tell Jeremiah Donati what to do. I do think they're not going in the NCAA tournament. All right, they're not going. Number one, they're not going as an at-large, obviously, and B, they're not going to run the SEC tournament. It's too much. You're asking too much. Lamont Paris has got to have, if he's coming back, one eye already on next season. I can't that just ridiculous amounts of pressure next year, and that means doing two things: shoring up your roster. For example, talking with a guy like Eli and saying, all right, I know that, look, there's an easy back door. Louisville has your brother committed.
Yep. The
easiest thing in the world is for Eli to be home hanging out with his brother for a night or something, going to see the family, and Pat Kelsey or a Louisville coach FaceTimes Isaac Ellis. Oh, Eli's here. Like, I'm pretty sure that's not illegal.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure that's how it would work.
Sure.
And so, and Pat subtly drops, hey, boy, are we in the market for a point guard next year? Because, was it Mikal Brown? Yeah. Just in case you're thinking about leaving anywhere.
Sure, that's how those things go.
So anyway, the point there is, like, you need to give Lamont Paris, and you can do it privately. I think you got to do it publicly. Like, give him a vote of confidence and be like, that man is back next year. He is back. And until I hear the public vote of confidence, the public vote, I'm operating under the assumption that they won't be back.
Okay. Again, it's close. I'll say that much, because I think a month ago, I think most of us probably would have thought Lamont was gone. But again, when you factor in the buyout and all this other kind of stuff, I wouldn't be shocked if they keep him around and try and just inject more resources to see if that works. I don't know. But you're right. Until Donati formally says something, we're just made to guess and speculate.
I mean, part of it is us being gun-shy about the money. For all we know, Jeremiah Donati's got a great plan to pay the buyout and to hire a new coach for $3.5 million. Like, we don't know. There's a lot of people coming up, and I get where some of it comes from, but there's a lot of people who are like, well, that buyout, I don't know if they can do that. For all we know, Jeremiah Donati sat down in December or November and was like, all right, to make, in case it all goes south, in the worst case, what is it, smash glass?
Break glass in case of emergency.
All right, what are my fail-safes? How do I get out of this?
Well, because I think we operate under the assumption, and what few public numbers we've gotten, South Carolina finds themselves towards the middle or bottom of the SEC when the conversation of NIL and resources comes about for the most part. I'm not saying that's necessarily true. It's just what few numbers we've gotten kind of suggest that. And I don't know, maybe they've gotten a huge influx of money that we know nothing about that they could go out there and pay that kind of buyout. But until we see it, we're just going to assume that maybe they don't have the funds they need to make those moves if they want to make them.
Yeah, so we'll see. But Kentucky tomorrow night for the men's basketball team. Mark Pope will bring his team in, and they're scuffling right now. They need a win bad. Obviously, Lamont Paris, if he could beat Kentucky again, would look very good on his resume, trying to retain his job and then kind of everything that comes with that. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll get back into some baseball. Jamie Bradford will join us. You're listening to the Halftime Show.
Time it here for our friends over at Tilly's Warehouse, first wine and spirit store at 5 Points in the past 20 years. Tell you about it all the time, but you need to get yourself over there for the night, for the weekend, or whatever you have coming up. Located on Green Street, right behind the Salty Nut Cafe and the old Pavlov's building. They've got everything you need for whatever you have coming up. I mentioned the other day, just saw on their Instagram, that they have Surfside Lemonade packs where you can get multiple flavors that by the case. So get on down to Tilly's and check that out if you are interested. Again, if you mentioned that you heard this ad on 107.5 The Game, you can get 10% off any wine selection as well over at Tilly's. Stay connected with them on Instagram or Facebook to find out the latest for what they have in stock, or go to their website, tillyswarehouse.com, for more information as well. And discover why Tilly's is your new must-visit spot over in 5 Points.
Going back to our NASCAR discussion, our NASCAR loyalist, Russ, says time to separate the men from the boys. Now that they're done with the speedway races for a while, we're going to see who is going to run good this year.
Yeah, we get into the portion, and COTA maybe not necessarily because it's a road course, but after that, Phoenix, Vegas, Darlington, you got Kansas and stuff coming up in the spring. Yeah, this is where you get into the real racetracks and kind of figure out who your more consistent contenders are going to be. So I'm excited for that. It's been a fun 2 weeks, but yeah, you get more of the meat of the schedule coming up in the next couple weeks.
We will get into that. Tyler will do more of it when we are joined on Thursday. I'll be out on Thursday at a doctor's appointment, but Tyler will be joined by our good buddy Doug Turnbull with the Performance Racing Network. Right now, though, we are joined as we are each and every Monday by the one and only baseball aficionado, the man they call Jamie Bradford. Welcome in, young man. How are you feeling down there in Charleston today?
Doing all right. That's a big intro. I better deliver, I guess.
Yeah, you're our cleanup hitter. I watched last night.
That's not good.
For a few minutes, I watched Major League. They had a marathon, so I ended up switching over catching Major League 2.
Okay.
When they all have money and are overly confident.
So if Jamie's our cleanup hitter, who's batting leadoff, and where's the other person in the lineup?
Where's the other person?
Yeah. Like, is one of us leadoff, or am I like 9-hole? What are we doing here?
Well, my batting average suggests I'm on the bench. You would be the leadoff guy.
Okay, all right.
You're Dave is hitting. I guess I said he's 3. So technically, Dave is. Am I right on this? Dave is batting cleanup at 4.
Traditionally, cleanup's 4. 3.
Okay.
Some people will put him at 3.
So Dave's 4, Jamie's 3, and we'll put Doug at 2.
Okay.
And JC's 5th.
Sure.
Why not, though?
Sounds good.
Does that work for
think
you, Jamie?
We might be able to beat somebody with that lineup.
A little pressure on you. Does that feel good?
Well, first of all, cleanup hits 4th, not 3rd.
That's what I
number
did.
1. Number 2, any way that you want to cut this, we're not going to win a game. So this is about the worst lineup I think I've ever,
Yeah.
ever been a part
Some
of.
people do experiment with the best hitter at 3, though.
I will
it's
say
not,
this.
It's not traditional cleanup, but some do it.
We would not be stealing a lot of bases. That much I would guarantee. So, all right,
No.
let's be negative for just a second before we turn positive here. And the reason I start negative is because I think that's where a lot of people's mind. You mentioned it. I think last week or 2 weeks ago. Baseball is kind of carrying the brunt for what has occurred with football and then what has kind of occurred with men's basketball. So I think the natural perception right now when South Carolina loses is to be negative about it. But what are the issues that you have taken away from the 2 losses now, what you saw in the 3rd game of the Northern Kentucky series and now game 1 against Army? Biggest issues Jamie Bradford sees?
Well, I mean, they were different in both those games. I mean, they didn't hit in that 3rd game against Northern Kentucky, and they didn't pitch against Army. And, you can look, on Friday night, you had who I think should continue to be the starting pitcher on Fridays moving forward, Riley Goodman. I mean, he had Tommy John surgery. He's only been back for 2 games where he threw 70 pitches in both. I don't think that's not enough of a sample size to pull the reins from him. But, you've got a team that is still 8 games in that's almost brand new together. Now, I'm not making excuses for them losing. That's not what I'm saying. But it is understandable that they have lost a couple of games. I think the thing that makes me the most uncomfortable with the team overall, and I'm not necessarily questioning Coach Maneri because I just don't know the reasons why. I haven't had a chance to really talk to him about it at length. I'm only a couple little conversations here and there, but it's the drastic lineup changes. And it's hard for guys to get comfortable. Now, you want to write a lineup that you feel like is going to give you success in that day, and I totally understand that. But long term, you want guys to be comfortable in their own shoes. So when you have guys who, like Sutter, who didn't hit, deserved to be put on the bench, and then he gets back in there, he hits a home run, and he's back in the lineup, and then all of a sudden a couple games later he's hitting 3rd. You got Scobie, who goes from hitting 3rd to hitting 6th. You got Reese Moore, who goes from hitting 8th to hitting 3rd, and then he's out of the lineup. And I know that there's things that determine that, like who they're facing and stuff, stuff of that nature. Patrick Evans, 7-8-hole hitter, and then he's hitting 2nd. There's a lot of drastic stuff that changes how people pitch to you too, and it's hard to get comfortable. So I'm hoping that they can kind of start to settle in on more of a solidified lineup. Where guys are getting comfortable in whatever spots they're hitting in the order where they're playing defensively. That'll probably change a little bit, because they do have multiple options out there. But at least in the batting order, getting comfortable with what your role is in this offense.
Speaking of those lineup changes, one they did in the last 2 games of the weekend was putting Will Craddock in that leadoff spot. Of course, opened up both games with leadoff home runs, which was awesome to see. Bach had a tough weekend at the plate, especially once he got moved down the lineup for the other 2 games. You're still riding with Bach as your permanent leadoff hitter. Do you like Craddock in that spot? How do you feel about that?
No, I like Will there right now. He hasn't done anything to lose it. So Will's a fastball. He's a fastball hitter guy, right? So he'll ambush a fastball, okay? And where he has struggled is the same place that Scobie has struggled, which is with the breaking ball. Now let's give him some credit. He also had a couple of base hits on breaking balls over the weekend. So a lot of credit to Craddock for being able to adjust to that. But the reason that he's in that leadoff spot, and major credit to Coach Maneri on this, is because in the fall, when he was playing on what you would consider, the second team, if you will, they moved him up in the order and hit him leadoff. And the reason that they did that was to get him more at-bats in those scrimmages. Well, he handled it really well, and he doesn't look like a prototypical leadoff hitter. He kind of reminds you of Cole Messina when they moved him up there a couple of years ago. Big, powerful guy. But what happens when you hit leadoff, especially at the beginning of a game? You're going to see fastballs. Right? You're going to see fastballs. And so if you're having trouble hitting the breaking ball and you're able to hit leadoff and see more fastballs, he's a guy who can jump on it. So until he gives you a reason to not put him in there, let him hit there. And then, you just got to be able to hit behind him. But, Bach struggled a little bit. It opened the door for Will, and, he's able to jump on those. Now, he has to be prepared. I mean, certainly it'll happen against Queens, but definitely against Clemson. And if he goes in there and he hacks early in the count and say he gets a hold of one or he lines one in a gap somewhere on a fastball, Clemson is going to go to the off-speed stuff. And he's going to have to make his adjustments against better pitching, like from the Tigers and in the SEC. But right now he sure is handling that role well, and we'll see what happens this week.
We'll stay on the batting for just a minute, come back, get into the pitching a little bit, but about 2.5 minutes with you. I saw John Whittle kind of a little worried about the strikeouts being up early in the season. Any thought to that, or is that just early batting right now?
I'm not worried about that. They need to get their walks up. Go back and look at the offenses at South Carolina and what correlates with runs. In 2023, they were third in the SEC in runs scored. They were third in the SEC in walks. In 2024, they were sixth in the SEC in runs scored. They were sixth in the SEC in walks. Last year, they walked the second fewest in the league, and they scored the second fewest runs in the league. This team needs to walk more. You're going to strike out. You're going to see 95-plus every weekend from here on out. It's coming. There's nothing you can do about it. The best teams in the league are going to strike out too. All right? I mean, you don't want to strike out all the time. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying you can live with it, but you've got to be able to walk, and they need to draw more of those.
He is Jamie Bradford, Tyler Head, Captain David Aaron, Bill Gunner. What we'll do is we'll come back, and Tyler earlier talked a little bit. I think you wanted to see Riley Goodman stay, or did you? You're calling for Amp Phillips.
Well, I think it's, and Maneri did say over the weekend that there would be conversations about that. I haven't settled one way or the other, but there's conversation to be had about what you're going to do. I'm interested to see what Maneri ultimately decides to do with who gets the ball on Friday night.
We'll talk with Jamie Bradford about that. He kind of told us what he thinks a little bit, but we'll get back into a little bit deeper conversation on Riley Goodman, Amp Phillips, and that whole pitching staff. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Shout out to former teammate, good buddy of mine, Tyson Balknight over at American Leadership Academy. They will take on Clinton tonight in the next round of the high school boys playoffs. A couple of really good games tonight taking place, by the way. I think headlined by kind of a state championship type showdown over at Gray Collegiate as North Augusta comes up here. North Augusta and Gray are probably two of the better teams in the entire state, regardless of classification, and they'll meet tonight over at Gray Collegiate. So good luck to all the boys and girls that are out there. We may have to see if we can get Chris Deering on for an early segment tomorrow just to catch up with him and talk about what's going on, because you mentioned it, a lot happened in the high school world last week. But kudos and congratulations to Tyson and his staff and his players there over at American Leadership Academy. All right, back to baseball, and Jamie Bradford joining us as he does each and every Monday. Jamie, Riley Goodman was the guy and I'm not picking on you, I'm just saying you were very excited about. You hyped up in the preseason. Now he's trying to find his way back, and that's exactly what these first two games are for. Let me ask this, when do you feel like you can fully cut him loose so that he's back?
You're hoping by about the start of league play. So a couple more starts, that would be 4, and then you'll open the SEC season. That's ideal. That's ideal for him. Yeah.
In reference to him remaining the Friday starter, does playing at home have any difference in that? If this game were on the road at Clemson on Friday night, would you entertain the idea of maybe going with Ant Phillips and trying to get him a more favorable start at home or at Seger or something along those lines, or you think still Friday all the way no matter what?
Well, no, I like Riley on Friday, and for 2 reasons. For 3 reasons. One, he's got the stuff. I mean, he wouldn't be in there if he didn't. But he's only through 2 starts. I mean, he was really good last week. And then this week, he kept trying to throw that slider for a strike, and he just couldn't get it there. And my advice to him, if it was worth anything, which it shouldn't be, but would be, hey, look, when you don't feel like you've got it, remember that you throw 98 miles per hour and throw it and make him hit it. Tell him to hit it, because he's really good when he's at the top of the strike zone. And, I think he got away from that just trying to get those sliders to come through for him the other day. So, also, though, like, you want to establish a Friday night starter. You don't want that. You don't want that again. You don't want to have to go through this. You don't want to be having a revolving door of dudes on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever day it is. Sunday is one thing, but Friday and Saturday, you want to give your staff every opportunity that they can get to be set when you get into the SEC and know what you're working with. And sometimes that helps you with your lineup too, right? So the other thing is, Ant Phillips, probably had the best start. Well, not probably. He did have the best start of the season. But Ant Phillips can get you deep into games. And, if Riley loses on Friday night, you got Amp to even up the series on Saturday. If Amp loses on Friday night, then you got a guy who doesn't have as much experience, actually has no experience in trying to get a season or get a weekend series evened up on a Saturday afternoon. I think there's less pressure on him going on Friday than there is on Saturday. Now, if you win the game on Friday night, yeah, you're playing with house money on Saturday essentially. But I'd rather have my more experienced arm as it stands right now in the Saturday role than in the Friday role, and let the guy with the best stuff on the team try to get that figured out.
What do you make right now of Josh Gunther? Was it just a bad performance? He was so good a week ago against Northern Kentucky. In my opinion, kind of carried them in that ball game, and then just gets hammered by Army on Friday afternoon. Gave up 5 hits, 5 earned runs, walked 3, only struck out 3. Not his best performance, and the Wake Forest transfer, probably something that he'll regret he ever did, but I know he's ready to get back out there. But your take on him so far in the 2 appearances we've seen him?
Love that kid. Love that kid. He's fantastic. He had the same issue that Riley had. They just weren't throwing enough strikes. If they throw strikes, they're going to be okay. I mean, Gunther threw, I think, 35 strikes and 60 pitches, and Goodman was 40 strikes and 72 pitches. Those numbers need to come up. Gunther needs to be up. Believe it or not, let's say he had thrown 40 strikes and 60 pitches. That probably means he got ahead of a couple of hitters he didn't get ahead of, and that probably means he had a better chance of getting them out. The same thing with Goodman. Gunther's a kid. He's been through the wars. You just chalk that up. That's a bad day. And here's the thing: these two kids have to pitch. They don't have any choice. Like, they've got to pitch, and they have to pitch well for this team to have a chance to do some things that they want to do this year. So, yeah, you're concerned with getting them where you want to get them, but it's not a concern of like, oh, well, were you going to have to look for somebody else? No, there is nobody else. Like, these two guys have to pitch. And so they're just going to have to continue to work through the kinks and just get them throwing more strikes. They get ahead of hitters, they're going to be fine.
The story of the weekend, I guess, 'cause I've never had a broke foot. I don't know what it's like to have a broke foot. Hudson Lee comes in and on Saturday. Apparently, no issue, no big deal. I'm just gonna mow down everybody I face. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Let me get was it Sunday that he hit, or Saturday. My days are running together. Yeah. 1 inning, 3 strikeouts, 3 batters faced. Yeah, no problem. I got a broke foot. I'll handle it.
Yeah, my understanding is that the crack or the break or whatever you want to call it is in his heel. And so he's thrown, 1 inning and 2/3 this year, and he's got 5 strikeouts, which means he struck out every out that he's recorded. And he's a lefty, and he's not overpowering. I mean, he's right around 90, I guess, with his fastball, but he's staying under bat speed, kind of spinning it in there. And there is a place for guys like that in the game. I mean, I know everybody wants these big power arms. They want to see the big numbers up on the scoreboard. But South Carolina's faced it a bunch this year, and it's something that has traditionally given this program and many programs trouble. If you got a lefty who, is able to keep you under bat speed, or is able to stay under bat speed and keep you above it, that can be an issue. Now, is it an issue 2 and 3 times through the lineup? No, generally there's some sort of a correction or an adjustment that's made. But does that mean that you can get an inning or a couple of innings out of him in a big spot? Absolutely, especially if he's coming in after a right-hander who's throwing hard. So, yeah, credit to him for having a USA hockey type moment, knock my teeth out, and I'm just going to get back in there and keep going. And we'll see if he can maintain it throughout the season, but it sounds like he's been able to do so.
Jamie, we won't get to talk to you until next week or next Monday, so we'll have the Clemson series in the book by then. But how much, in your opinion, is kind of riding on where your expectations are coming away based on what we see this weekend against the Tigers?
More than usual. It won't determine what you do with the season, but let's be honest. There's one thing that's fair and one thing that isn't fair. One thing that's fair is that South Carolina, their baseball program is there's a lot of pressure going into this series because of what they themselves have done in this series, but also in particular, in the last year plus under Coach Mainieri. Like, they need energy. This program needs a jolt of energy, and you get it by beating the Clemson Tigers. It doesn't matter how good they are. You get it by beating them. The other side of it, and this is something that they can't control, but the men's side of the athletics department has largely struggled, as we all well know. And so it just comes down on whoever is playing in that particular day. Like, the weight of the athletics department falls on your shoulders. And, that's not fair to them. But it is what it is on the outside world. Now, they can't worry about that, and they won't worry about that. They're worried about themselves. But if you can find a way to get 2 of 3 this weekend against the Tigers, you just gave yourself a big-time shot in the arm that you haven't had around here in a little while. And they could maybe carry that forward and into the SEC season, and let's see what happens then.
He is Jamie Bradford joining us this afternoon. We'll come back. We'll talk to him a little bit about basketball from the weekend, both the men's and the women's. And I know he watched a little bit. I think I saw you ordered the Flow Sports package. Were you watching softball? Did I catch that tweet properly?
Absolutely.
Yes.
The worst, unfortunately, for old Ruben Felix, the worst play-by-play guy in the history of sports.
All righty. Well, we'll get more hot takes from Jamie besides just Ruben Felix on the women's softball team. They go out rough weekend for them, but we'll let Jamie explain a little bit with that newly minted Flow Sports package he purchased. What comes on tonight on that thing?
Canceled it. I've already canceled
Look at you. God knows what he's doing. They're professional. All right, we'll come back with Jamie Bradford and wrap up the program. It is the Halftime Show. Wrapping it up with a little Brooks and Dunn this afternoon on your Monday, final week of February. Then we'll turn the calendar into March, as we always do, with some madness that is the month of March, and what should be a really fun NCAA basketball tournament. Barring a miracle, the South Carolina men will not participate in it, but Jamie, they do get a win this weekend, and it's fun for those kids. Good to see those kids happy and be able to go in the locker room and enjoy that. That kind of, I hate to say it, it feels like pity that I'm giving them, but that probably is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been difficult, and they haven't quit. I mean, they haven't quit. You know, they keep playing. I mean, they scored 97 points this weekend. That's the most points they've scored all year long. Luckily, they scored 97 because they gave up 89. You know, here's the interesting part of it. And again, you know, there's no expectations that they'll do anything after the regular season or after the SEC tournament or anything like that. I hope they do, but there's no expectation that they will. But, you know, they could throw a wrench into it for some other folks, including the Wildcats of Kentucky, who have had their issues in this building over the years, as we all well know. And, I mean, if you think about it, there is no pressure on South Carolina tomorrow night when Kentucky comes in. None. And all of the pressure is on Kentucky. It's been there all year. They're feeling it. Every loss is – it's like Carolina football around here, right? You know, every loss and every win, the emotions high, low, high, low. Well, they're in the middle of a 3-game losing streak, and of the 4 games they've got left, this is the one that is the most winnable, because Vanderbilt and then a trip to A&M and Florida are the last 3 games on the slate. And this is the one they're looking at going, okay, well, we'll beat them, and then what happens? Well, you better be careful. Now, I know that there's a matchup issue, once again, for South Carolina in the paint. I got it. But, you know, if they come out firing from long range, that's the only way that they're really able to beat anybody. And if they're doing that tomorrow night and Kentucky gets tight, who knows? We'll see what happens.
Jamie asked the same question to Bill earlier, because we know a decision's going to be made here very soon whether Lamont Paris stays or they move on from him and bring in somebody else. I'm not asking this question of what you want to happen, but if you just had to guess right now, where are you at on which side you think is the most likely outcome here?
If I had to guess, and I know this is going to disappoint a lot of people out there, if I had to guess, as it stands in this moment, which this could change in 30 minutes, as you all know, I would anticipate that he would return. My reasoning behind that is this. If I asked you, who do you want to coach your I'm not comparing him to either one of these guys, don't get me wrong. But if I asked you, who do you want to coach your basketball team, Dean Smith or Coach K? Does it matter who you pick? I mean, one of you picks Dean Smith, one of you picks Coach K. Who cares, right? They're both the best to ever do it, correct?
Right.
So what if I said you get Dean Smith with $15 million and you get Coach K with $5 million? Who are you going to pick then?
I've seen what Coach K can do with it. Now, did we get the Nike money that comes with it? That comes with Coach K?
Okay. You get my point. So
yes.
what I'm getting at here is college basketball is a transactional sport right now. And I think we've all heard things. We have an idea. Bill, you probably know more than me and most everybody else out there. I know, you're really tied in with hoops. So I don't want to necessarily speak out of turn. But if NIL is a major issue in acquiring talent here, it doesn't matter who you get to coach. It's not going to matter. You can't keep players, and you can't get them. So if it's really all a financial thing, then, and people don't want to hear that. Like I think there's so many people out there that don't even care right now. I don't care. He's just a loser. Let's get him out of here. That's fine. I'm not saying anybody's wrong in saying that. That might be true. But I'm saying if there is that big of a financial hurdle, it's not going to matter who you hire. You're going to have to come up with the money anyways. And that's why I think at this point in time, that's probably the direction they go. But again, it's very fluid.
Well, I know. I mean, you got to have someone who can coach. And I agree. You can bring in, look, Eric Musselman. Was it Eric Musselman? No, who was it at Arkansas before Musselman? Anyway, they had Pelfrey. Pelfrey could bring in great players, couldn't coach worth a lick. One of the worst coaches I'd ever seen. And you'd see it. He'd go land all these 5 stars and these 4 stars at Arkansas and couldn't win. And right now Calipari's there, and obviously he's got Darius Acuff, and he at least knows how to coach well enough. But to your point, I don't know. I don't know. I know you're right. I've because my son is about to be back into the AAU world, and I'm back into a spot that I was at many years ago doing scouting. I'm having these conversations with other coaches. I am not talking to anybody in that. And I'm not, no offense to them, I'm not talking to anybody over there, so I'm not getting inside information. I don't want it. I don't need it. I don't want to be on the spot for anything that gets leaked out. So I'm not talking to anybody on there. I don't know what Jeremiah Donati's thinking, but I know what's going on, what the thinking is in the coaching profession right now. And, you know, obviously the numbers are what the numbers are. Most of the coaches I speak with, by the way, they're more worried about finishing their season. A couple of them are in line to get to the NCAA tournament than they are what's going on at South Carolina. But to your point, yes, NIL money here has to change. And, Jamie, I'll bring this up. I know we just got about 2.5 minutes. The other thing that's got to change is a commitment to promoting this university. And this is not on Lamont. Some of it's on Lamont, but this isn't. What happened this weekend with that Legends weekend is a shame. It is an absolute shame. You've got to make that more known. You and JC, y'all do a show. When did y'all know about Legends Weekend? When did y'all find out? Because you study just as much as we do. You pay attention and you're prepped and ready to go. When did you learn of this?
Like the day before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing that happened a few weeks ago. And you know, I'm not trying to bury anybody here. I personally, I like everybody over there. It's nothing personal with anybody. Like we want to help. We want to tell people about this stuff. But it happened a few weeks ago when they were honoring the back-to-back NIT title games. There was a footnote buried in the game notes. Did you see that in our email? And it was like I didn't
see it for the one a couple weeks ago. I saw it Friday when I was reading for the Saturday's game.
Right. Well, that's my point. Is, you know, I didn't. I mean, it was the Friday to this one here. It was Gamecocks host Mississippi State on Legends Weekend Saturday, and I was like, wait, it's Legends Weekend? You know, and there was like 2,000 people in the arena. I mean, I don't know that contributes to you know promotion necessarily. I mean, I think more people would show up and things would get promoted a little bit better if you're really good all the time. I don't know if they tie in together or not, but it doesn't mean that they shouldn't celebrate. And if they plan to celebrate, let more people know about it and figure out a way to make that a bigger deal. I 100% agree with that, and we're all over it every day. And I feel like we haven't known anything with this stuff.
Well,
so.
it's not one scenario. It's not isolated, and that's why we bring it up. This isn't about, oh my goodness, we didn't know about Legends Weekend. How dare they? No, it's not. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back. This is, as you just mentioned, this has happened again already. Those NIT teams, say what you want right now, that's about the golden age of South Carolina basketball. You had Dave Odom make one NCAA tournament, and three NIT championship games, winning 2 over the span of, 6 years, if I remember correctly? Something in that ballpark, 5 or 6 years. Just, you got to promote it better. But anyway, negative way to end. But, Jamie,
they don't have an issue promoting the women. They handle that just fine.
And then we barely watched because they beat Mississippi by 40. Just no chance. Jamie, have a good week, buddy. Best of wishes to you. Thank you as always for joining us.
You got it. See you guys.
Take care.
Yeah.
We're back tomorrow. We'll be positive. I promise. Very positive.
It's all right here for our friends over at Canty Foundation Specialists. I tell you about it all the time, but I'm happy to remind you again, you always need to be on the lookout for things around your home that are just a little bit off. Things like cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in walls or above windows and door frames, doors or windows that might be sticking, uneven or bouncy floors, or cracks over your garage door. If you notice any of these problems with your home, you could have serious foundation issues. And that's where our friends at Canty Foundation Specialists come in. Go online to schedule an appointment today at cantycanfixit.com. They'll send a professional out to your home to evaluate those foundation issues and get them fixed so you and your family can live worry-free going forward. Again, go online to schedule an appointment with Canty Foundation Specialist at cantycanfixit.com and let them take care of your home's foundation needs.